All right. It says we're live. We're probably live. This is not center. This is almost center. This is probably center. All right, here we go. Welcome everyone. This is on Just Restart. Hopefully the audio is not too bad. It may sound a little echoey. I'm working on it. Again, this is not my normal set because I am not home right now, and I will be not home for an extended period of time. But still doing the show. It's still happening, and this is episode 200. Not that I really wanted to do any sort of crazy celebration, but I did bring in, I would say, my closest YouTube friends that have guested on here more than anyone else, and we always have very, very enjoyable discussions. So I don't know what order to do you guys in. ABC order. ABC order is non-biased. So, Dumo, at the top right of the screen. How you doing, buddy?
Good, you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you for asking. We got Shifty, bottom right of the screen. How you doing?
Doing well.
Very good, very good. And then, well, I guess technically Brandon, his name starts with a B.
But what have you done?
But his YouTube name was What About Nintendo, which he changed to What About Nodnarb, and his social media name in general is What About Nodnarb. So, in fairness, I think I am still doing it in ABC order. So, Brandon is at the bottom left. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Ready to be on the cast 2 weeks in a row. Let's go.
Yeah. Good times, man. Good times. So, guys, the plan for tonight, as we let people roll in, is to talk about Nintendo, as we do every Sunday night, pretty much.
Shocker.
Occasionally, we do them on Mondays. Occasionally, we do them at 9. Well, now we're trying to do it pretty much consistently at 8 p.m., just so it's a little bit earlier, mainly because work reasons, I have to get up earlier and stuff. But also more people are up at 8 than 9, or, you know, there's more time to watch a show before people go to sleep, basically. So, yes, that's probably the going time for the indefinite future. But anyway, we're talking about specifically, obviously, the news of the week, which has a few things. Like Nintendo Switch Sports had a live test demo that we couldn't actually record. I didn't even get a chance to play it, actually. I didn't have a chance to. I did look at some footage illegally. It wasn't illegal. It's not illegal for me to watch it, but it was illegal for people to put out footage of it. So I saw it. It looks great. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how there's apparently some AMD upscaling technology in there as well. And that does have like interesting implications because we have seen like Nintendo put out patents for something of the sort for DLSS, something of that ilk. And it kind of coincides with rumors of Nintendo doing R&D with that, working with NVIDIA, maybe a Switch Pro, maybe a Switch 2 in the future. So it's all sort of related. We'll talk about that. And then also, Retro Studios posted a new banner art, which they never do. And this banner art shows something interesting. I think it's our first official concept art for Metroid Prime 4. There's certainly debate to be had there, but we're talking about that as well. And we're also just going to be going into our overall 2022 expectations now, following the February Direct, because with new information, as evidence presents itself, your opinions can change, right? Because we now have a more informed perspective of what Nintendo's plans are, right? So it kind of does we kind of have a pretty good picture of how the year is going to shake out now. And it's kind of like one of those bigger topics where I feel like it'd be a good thing for all of us to sort of talk about as like a 4-person panel. So I felt like that would be a pretty good subject to have for podcast 200. So that's the general plan for the evening. But of course, you guys in the chat, if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, if you have any questions, pose them. We will be going back and forth there. Or you guys here as a panel for this cast, if there's anything else you want to discuss, that's totally fine as well. We can do that. But let me just say hello to a few people in the chat, and then we'll get the ball rolling here. Natsu, hello. Alex Too Cheesy, hey yo. Sabo, hi. Kitatunu Tatsu, hi there. What about Nana? What are you doing in the chat? Are you modding? Are you modding for me? Is that what you're doing, Brandon?
I said one thing and I've not looked at the chat again.
Okay then. Okay. Harry Myers, hello there. I will try and give you the delicious goodness, Harry Myers. I will do my best. Joycey J, woo, my end of weekend gaming chat. We will hopefully have a good time tonight. Having Hope 5, hello. Nick D. Hey, Andres, here to show Donkey Kong some love since Nintendo will not. Not yet, but someday. Someday. Birdman Senpai, hello there. Thank you for modding, buddy. Diozam. Hey, howdy, Andre. Really enjoyed your video with Player Essence. Really neat collab. I did not see coming. Yeah, I actually had a good time having a discussion with Player Essence. Brian and I both enjoyed that discussion last week. It was a fun time. Definitely make sure to check out OJ from Player Essence's channel. Is linked in the previous podcast, but I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen him before. Cool dude, for sure. Rescue Squad Culp, hello there. Brawls, good evening. Casual Noob Gamer, hello there. Quinn McDonald, where's Nate? Nate from Nintendo Prime. Nate's doing great. I was just on his podcast a few days ago, so you should definitely, check him out as well. Birdman Senpai, end this debate. GameCube or Nintendo 64? Okay, all right, here. All right, first random topic for the evening. How about you guys go at it? Tell me which one. Which one? Actually, from what perspective? Which one is like the best selling? Because that's subjectively the Nintendo 64. Which one's the most fun? Which one do we prefer? I mean, I guess that's probably what
I think that's what it is. Yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah.
I don't know which one I prefer. I think I have much more nostalgia for the N64, but like objectively, I think the gameplay experiences on GameCube are much more polished. So I don't know.
I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair at least. Maybe I'm just gonna succumb to my biases and just say that I'm gonna go with the N64 on this one.
Fair.
As far as the debate goes, that's a really rough internal debate. There's so much on both, so much time spent with both. Oh my god. I guess if I have to pick right now, I'm gonna have to lean towards GameCube.
Okay, 2-1. All right.
I mean, just I don't know. I feel like I have to give the GameCube a little love.
I think the N64 was more important for gaming in general and Nintendo games in general. Like, it was more revolutionary than the GameCube was. A lot of the concepts they were doing a lot of things for the first time and really pioneering stuff a lot more than GameCube did.
They definitely
But that's just kind of the nature of the beast there.
Yeah, they definitely did. And then when you want to look into things like the GameCube was the last in a direction that Nintendo was going, and the GameCube did not perform overly well sales-wise, and because of that, Nintendo changed the course of the company entirely afterwards. But there was still some really good experiences, and I just had this debate in my Discord server too, maybe 3 or 4 days ago. People talking about GameCube and GameCube games that should be brought back, and I got all nostalgic for Eternal Darkness, and I'm sticking with it. So GameCube.
Oh, I do love me some GameCube. I mean, they got Pikmin, Luigi's Mansion. There's some great new series on there.
Original Mario Strikers.
Yeah.
Double Dash.
Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is one of my favorite RPGs. So good.
There was some really good stuff. That system did not that underperformed. That wasn't a matter of it not being a good system or not a good competitor. Yeah. It underperformed, and a big part of that is PlayStation was a monster that generation.
For real.
Yeah, the GameCube had a lot of really good games. It's a good comparison, I would say, just because of how good both systems had in terms of their franchises that were represented.
Yeah. But I think in the coming years, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more GameCube remakes, and some of them there's some really good stuff that could come as a remake or a port or something. Anything like an old port or a remake could be really big, and I think people would really enjoy those games coming back even today.
They've already been done, but I want them on Switch. Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. Come on, Nintendo,
please?
Why? It would take you all 2 seconds to port those games. Please.
Let me
don't even change it. Just give it. Just port it.
Just rip out the
Let's-
Miiverse stuff and then give it to
Let's
us.
let's
They don't even actually
rephrase
do much.
the question for GameCube versus N64, and I feel like if I phrase it in this way, the answer becomes more clear. Okay, and
Okay.
obviously it may be unfair, but if you had to only have one game system and its entire library to play for the rest of your life, nothing else, which one would you pick? Nintendo 64 and all of its library, or GameCube and all of its library?
GameCube.
And just to make things interesting, because it's not going to ever happen, let's just assume that you can have full multiplayer with online for both. With every game
Do
that's
they have to run the same as they did on the original consoles? Do we have to deal with 20 FPS Ocarina of Time?
Assume performance is steady.
Oh, so you get a
that
beefed
does
up
seem-
N64.
So wait. So steady 20 frames a second, or like?
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't get boosted. It doesn't crash.
Oh, wow.
Which
I don't know.
Maybe not then. Maybe
those
at
caveats
GameCube,
help
please.
for a little bit, right? But I
No.
The thing is that you could technically play Ocarina of Time on your GameCube. Like you could just,
Yeah.
if you have that disc,
Fair.
you can just do that.
yeah. So what's the answer?
Yeah.
I mean,
So
if
definitely
you-
GameCube then.
yeah, because I would say I prefer the games with N64, but it's like if you're telling me I can only have one and it's gonna be with the system I have forever, that does make the choice a little bit harder because there is like issues with the N64 in some ways, you know. Geez, I don't know, because I feel like when I think of the experiences I had on the N64, I feel like I prefer the games on there. Like I'm more of like Ocarina Majora than I am like a Wind Waker person.
How dare
Wait.
you?
It's just true. I'm sorry.
But you can
That's the
get
truth,
all
Brandon.
4 Zelda games on GameCube, though, right?
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
mentioned
Yeah.
that. It's like if you're just picking one system, it's like GameCube kind of has the Zelda games I care about. I think.
Yeah, I think the biggest loss for GameCube is it doesn't have Mario 64.
I mean, there's like
Yeah,
certain.
Sunshine does suck.
Yeah, it does.
I don't agree with that.
It's
But-
not. It doesn't.
We've
But-
argued
It's
about
a
this
very
multiple
5 out of
times.
10 game. Let's not argue
Definitely
anymore.
missing Mario 64 is a problem. Like
Yeah,
that
and-
does hurt it.
There's certain like other games that I enjoyed on the N64 that.
But GameCube has Resident Evil games. I mean, so
Oh, yeah.
Which one has GoldenEye?
Ah.
which one has Time Splitters?
Which one
But-
has Perfect
but Andre
Dark?
said it has
Which
to
one
be
has
like
Eternal Darkness?
original frame.
Yeah.
rate.
Which one has
I'm
Killer
not playing.
Instinct?
Which one has Soul Calibur 2?
Oh, okay, that's a good one. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie to you.
That's like I think it's literally
then we
considered
can-
one of the highest rated games of all time. Like it's just if we count it for fighting games, it's like it is it.
You know what? Yeah, that is true. But what about Doom 64? I love Doom 64.
Oh,
I'm
Doom
just gonna put that
64.
out there.
I mean, we could
What
probably
about
go back and
Geist?
forth on this all day.
Guys, is terrible.
It's 2 hours of just yelling games from each system.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, how about this? How about that? We'll never win.
God,
What
there's
about
games on the
Cubivore?
64
Custom
that
Robo?
I loved that I can't even remember the name of
Well,
anymore.
But the reason
Yeah.
that I think the GameCube just kind of like blatantly wins, it's not even just like the first party stuff. Although I think you could make a good argument for first party being better on GameCube than N64. Although the rare stuff is definitely what gives it N64 like a strong fighting chance. But what the GameCube has over the N64 blatantly is like strong third party. In comparison to other Nintendo systems, strong third party support because the GameCube actually had multi-plats. It got most of the multi-platform games. Most of them. It got most of the sports games. I think it had some Splinter Cell games, right? Like it had Time Splitters.
Really?
Like it had like most of those games. Not all of them, and they usually were maybe not the best version because they were missing online. But GameCube still had it. While N64, it just had N64 games.
Argue that the Nintendo game specifically on the N64 side was just blatantly better in most cases than GameCube. I think the Nintendo games I could think of that were really good on GameCube is like Double Dash, Metroid Prime.
Give me a second,
and-
guys. Somebody's calling me. Hold on. I'll be back.
Okay.
Like Nintendo's actual games, and you
Yeah,
got
like the Nintendo
your-
IPs. Yeah.
You got your Mario Strikers. You got your.
And I will give credit and say that I actually never played Mario Strikers in my life, so I can't even judge that.
Fantastic. The game is so much fun.
I'll
So
probably
think of
pick up
like
the new
a
one.
3v3 with a goalie in each net. You're playing soccer set up like Mario Kart. There's an electric fence around the pitch and full body checking. So you can literally body check someone into an electric fence, have them get fried, take the ball from them, and go score a goal. Like it's just a lot of fun.
The GameCube wins. That's the answer.
That's so crazy.
I
GameCube
got
wins.
so excited when that came up in the direct. I was just like, oh my god. People I was in chat with, what is this? I'm like, it's Strikers. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, no, I flipped out when Strikers was announced. That was nuts. It was
Oh,
so
they're like,
crazy.
oh, online. I'm like, I'm getting this. We're playing. People need to buy this. Let's go.
Like, I'm assuming Next Level Games is developing it. I don't know if we know that for a fact yet. But it makes sense because Luigi's Mansion finished in 2019 and now it's 2022. Like, the timing works out pretty well. That's how long it would take to make it. Actually, can we look that up? Would it say on Nintendo's website, like, if who's developing it?
I'm looking it up now and it mentions Next Level Games.
Does it?
Oh, nice.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
On Google or?
When I Google it, yeah.
Well, Google,
Next
it might
Level
just mean
Games.
like I'm talking about like specifically the one that's for Switch.
Alright.
Like if you go on the Nintendo's website.
Sorry if I'm interrupting. Somebody called me. I have to go in probably like 40 minutes, but I'll be on till then.
All right.
You have to
Letting you
leave
guys
in
know
40
what's up.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything okay?
yeah, it's fine. I'll let you know later. It's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Well, Mario Strikers, I don't know. It doesn't say a Nintendo specific website here. That I don't know. I'm
What are we going
assuming
on about?
we're not sure if Next Level Games is developing the new Mario Strikers.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's confirmed yet. I don't think anybody has claimed that title yet.
And Google got
But
to
Well,
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's got to be next level, right? Like,
I feel like the answer is probably yes. Google says
Yeah, I feel
Next
like
Level Games, but like I think it's just saying that for like general Mario Strikers.
Well, when I look-
I'm pretty sure
looking
it's
at-
being confirmed.
Like when I look it up, I'm looking at the Battle League page specifically, and it mentions Next Level.
Okay, well maybe
But I don't know. Take that with a grain of salt because Wikipedia.
on
and all that,
Nintendo's
so-
website they do not say specifically if it is. So I'm not sure, but I think it's a pretty good bet that it's Next Level Games. It's a pretty good bet if it's not like official.
It might have been flashed like during the trailer. That might be what people are going off of, or they're just going off of previous.
Maybe.
As far as I know, it's just speculation and nothing's been confirmed. But I could be wrong.
Mm.
Hard to say. But let's check in the chat here. We all agree that GameCube is number one. Shifty, your opinion doesn't matter. They're
That's
both
so
great.
crazy.
They're both
I
great.
feel like there's a huge asterisk on that because I said N64 at first before you rephrase the question.
Yeah,
That is true. You cheated. I don't know, man. I think you cheated on that question.
I do agree. I do agree that Nintendo 64 is more important in terms of like generational like milestones, like what it accomplished. Like, you know, Mario 64 has set a precedent for like 3D platforming. Ocarina of Time basically with its Z targeting has shaped every third person moving forward. GoldenEye has kind of been the framework for every multiplayer first person shooter. Like, so, you know, if you look at it in that, I mean, yeah, like GameCube, N64 is more important for the history of gaming, but Brandon, you mentioned it earlier, GameCube's kind of more of like a polished version of all of that. I think GameCube has games that have simply aged better. It's more
That
fun
is
to go
fair.
back and play, but Nintendo 64 is more important for the history of gaming. And then, so if you
I'll
have,
take
so if you play N64, it's maybe more fun to go back to, but GameCube has just like, I think, objectively better games. And it has to, because it's newer technology. Like, it just has to.
More modern.
Right.
More polished.
also,
games, I'd say,
you-
not necessarily better.
I think the thing
Yeah.
that people would struggle the most with a lot of N64 games would be the fact that you didn't have a right stick at that point in time. You
Yeah.
didn't have anything really controlling a camera.
Controller limitations, for sure.
Yeah, there was control, and just the way the 3D was handled, it was handled very different, and it doesn't really convert to controllers the way we want it to today. When that right stick is just sitting there and you can't really use it.
Yeah.
So, they can change that with cameras, whatnot, like remakes. That's fine, but like, just things play and handle differently on the 64 than they did on other consoles, just due to the controllers.
It's very different.
The changes, they were learning to understand 3D space at that point in time.
On that note,
agreed, like,
sorry, finish your thought, Dumo. Sorry.
All good. I was just gonna say, like, I have to agree on the note of it being more important for gaming and moving forward. The other thing that GameCube brought, though, that people don't want to talk about too often is how much time they spent on that controller. That was a big marketing thing going into the release of the GameCube, by the way. If you guys didn't know, it was how much time and effort they had put into making the controller, in their wording at the time, perfect. And it definitely stands up today.
Holds up better than the
But it didn't have. It only had 3 shoulder buttons.
That does annoy me to this day. I'm not gonna lie.
What were they
That is
thinking?
probably the biggest thing holding me back from using the GameCube controller for modern
The
things.
C-stick didn't bother me. C-stick was fine.
I don't know.
It's okay.
The GameCube controller was good for the time, I feel, but now I don't think I can use it for anything other than Smash Brothers.
I don't even use it for Smash. I'm sorry. I haven't used the GameCube controller in like 6 years.
It just had really comfortable shoulder buttons and grips. Like the analog stick was pretty nice. Like those things all felt super set. It was very ergonomic.
Was another controller for me.
The GameCube was more ergonomic than PlayStation, Xbox. That much I think is pretty clear. But the button layout was definitely unorthodox.
Oh yeah, it was incredibly comfortable.
It was really odd. It was just really odd.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's one thing I will give credit to the GameCube controller that they just don't do anymore with controllers that I wish was still a thing or more common, was the way they made the stick have those little grooves on the outside of the casing.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of times I want to play a certain, let's say I'm playing like a fighting game and I want to do a certain input, but I have to use the D-pad, and I'm so much more comfortable using the stick for some reason. And in modern controllers, you don't really have those grooves like built in, so you have no idea when you've actually, there's no feedback in knowing when you've actually hit those inputs.
Yeah, it's so much more precise if you want to hit a specific rotation.
Yeah, so I'll give it that at least.
I thought you were gonna go with the analog buttons.
I mean, those are good too.
Yeah.
All right, so that was one chat.
Drop of those.
That was one chat. So
one comment.
Let's
go.
There's a few super chats here I want to get to. First is from Taker610. Thank you very much, Taker. You can play Game Boy Advance on GameCube. Include that library. Well, you can play the Pokemon games on Pokemon Stadium for N64.
You can.
Yeah.
But
I know that.
Game Boy
I had
playing...
Pokemon Stadium, but I never played Pokemon.
You needed the NBA, the GB, not whatever it was called. There was a transfer pack that you plugged into your N64 controller, allowed you to put your Pokemon games in there. I don't think it worked for other Game Boy Color games.
Game Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know what else it worked for. The only thing, because I'm pretty sure. Did you have to access that through Stadium?
Yes.
I can't remember.
You did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. The N64 had no option. If there wasn't a game inside N64, there was nothing you can do. It just didn't work. The N64 just straight boots the game, nothing else. With GameCube, there was like an actual like operating system that it would still auto boot to games, but you could either, if you didn't have a disc in, it would go to the operating system, or if you pressed it, there was a button you could press that could like have an alternate path to the operating system for what I remember. I don't remember which one it was.
I do wish when you turned the N64 on, it had some kind of something.
No,
because
it's
half
just
the time,
some
games would take longer to boot up than others, and my N64 back in the day sometimes just wouldn't boot when you turned it on. So I'd have to like turn it on and off and on and off and on and off, and then I have to like wait and see if it actually boots. I'm like, nope, okay, then it'll work, and then flick the switch over and over again.
Actually, to correct this, it says GBA games. It couldn't play GBA games on. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, I've gotten all mixed up.
On GameCube,
the
with the
GameCube. Yeah, the GBA games worked if you had a GBA to play them.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But yeah, if you're including that library's insane too.
I feel
Oh
like
my
that doesn't
God.
count. You have to have a
That doesn't
whole
count.
other
That's it.
system
Yeah.
included there. You can only have one system in the question.
I would say though, like going towards the whole question of like which one's better. Like I would prefer the N64 games, but we're making the argument as to which console has like the better longevity. It would definitely be the GameCube just because of all the other like add-ons and whatnot that you can play with it. It's like it would last way longer.
The graphics definitely hold up better. That's not even a question.
The other day, there was someone posted on Twitter to like list like your top 3 like Nintendo systems. GameCube and N64, I think, are in my top 3. I think it might be a top 4 for me. I don't know.
I
DS
don't
and
know if
3DS are pretty good, but
top 3. That's.
I think Switch is number 1 though.
Including handhelds in the systems as well. Okay.
Yeah, it makes it tough. DS is like the DS has a ridiculous lineup. It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And actually, 3DS has a pretty good lineup too. I just stopped playing it though. So even though I acknowledge it as a strong lineup, I didn't play a lot of those games on there.
Yeah, I didn't play a lot of them. I got the 3DS really late, and then I traded in for the Switch like 2 years after I got it, I think. So
yeah, no, those were both really good. GBA had another insane library too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, their handhelds were.
If you have a DS Lite though, you got both GBA and DS on one system. That was the shit.
Or if you had an original DS.
Yeah, I had that big brick in my pocket.
Yeah, I had that. By the time I lost it with the flood and everything, it had one of the hinges was broken. It was just kind of hanging there. Still worked just fine.
I still have a Phantom Hourglass DS I got back in like what was it? Must have been like 2007 or I don't know. Sometime back then. I think it still works or it just died. But I also gave it to my younger brothers to use, so that's kind of on them. It would still be working though.
So let me read this other super chat here from Nick D. Thank you very much for the super chat, Nick D. Me and my best friend just beat Double Dragon Neon on the Switch like a little over an hour ago. I'm 38 years old and I felt like almost 30 years younger playing it. LMAO. Yeah, man, it's just kind of crazy how like you can go back and just play these games, and it's just it's a trip backwards. You can relive your childhood, reimagine yourself in those younger years, or just feel that youth. Because I think often, obviously, age is objective, but I think how we feel and react to what that age is in part subjective, right? Like you don't have to be an old fart.
About how old we feel inside.
Yeah, it plays a role. It does play a role.
It is pretty cool to see a lot of these like old beat 'em up games like making a comeback in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've played a lot of River City and what was the other one? Streets of Rage. They both made a comeback.
Sacrilegious here. I don't care about beat 'em ups. I don't find them to be fun. They're just so slow and boring. But
how about the Ninja Turtles?
I didn't grow up in an era where beat 'em ups were like popular, so
you're just making me feel old. We're just talking about age right now. You're making me feel old.
I am the youngest one here by far. So
talking about
I'm only
16.
22.
I'm
sorry.
16.
I grew up with the N64, but I really should have grown up like at the tail end of the GameCube generation.
Yeah,
kind of did the same, but with the Nintendo instead of the SNES.
There you go. It's always good to start a generation behind.
When I was younger, because when you're younger, you don't really understand what's going on. Like, I would see all this, like, marketing for, like, Super Nintendo stuff, and I had an N64, and I was like, what's this other Nintendo system? Why is there another Nintendo system? What is this, right? Because there were still, like, some Super Nintendo games that were still, like, popping, like Donkey Kong Country 3 and stuff. And I was just wondering, like, what is this other, like, crazy Nintendo system? And I would always see, like, the promotional art, right, which would be, like, 3D renders and stuff. But I didn't realize it was for a 2D game. I was like, what is this? What is this a whole other thing? Like, it's kind of interesting how they all presented that back in the day.
When I was younger, it's not Nintendo related, I guess, but when the Xbox 360 came out, I was like, what do you mean I have to buy a new system to play Halo 3? I've been playing Halo 1 and 2 just fine. Why can't Halo 3 just work on my original Xbox? Why do I have to buy Xbox 360. What is this garbage? I did not understand at all.
Yeah. So let's let me see if there's anyone else added me here in the chat. Hello, Lurel. How you doing? All right. If you guys add me, it'll be easier for me to get to a particular question. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna jump into a particular topic, and then we're gonna kind of progress here. So Brandon, because I know you're leaving sooner, I feel like we should talk about this part first. We don't have to dwell on it for too long, but we did see that there is a software technology thing that's being used in Nintendo Switch Sports that's basically a more subtle but still a resolution upscaling in Nintendo Switch Sports from AMD. And from what my very basic understanding of this is this. Basically, say the game is at 480p, right? You can use this technology to have it upscale it to a higher resolution, let's say hypothetically 540p, but the amount of output that's required to do that is less than what you would do to run it natively at 540. So it basically looks the same as if it was natively slightly higher, but it requires a little bit less output. In other words, it's just a more efficient way of presenting the game, so you can get a little bit more bang for your buck there. I don't know the actual numbers. That's just kind of like, I'm just using those numbers as an example. And that's basically the technology behind it. Now, this is a software-based upscaling, right? It's something that can be sort of thrown in there when you code for the game, develop for the game. It's not like a hardware-based one like we've heard for DLSS, for example, something that we hope to maybe see for like a Switch 2 in the future, where it can be more of a significant sort of jump there. But the fact that we're even seeing this kind of technology in Nintendo Switch Sports, some people were thinking it implies things. I think it does. I think it suggests that there are other Nintendo games that are going to use similar things in the future. This could be evidence that Nintendo is building in that direction, that they do want to have this kind of upscaling technology in their future games. And I think it makes sense because, one, we've already seen patents for Nintendo researching into that, right? We know they work with NVIDIA, who right now is on the front lines of this kind of technology already. So with those things in mind, it just kind of seems like a very logical deduction to make that, yeah, Nintendo is going to do this. And it lines up with rumors which have said literally that Nintendo is going to make some sort of, that they are researching hardware and it will have DLSS. Like, that's part of the rumors. So it's kind of like there's all these things sort of lining up here. And it also makes sense because if Nintendo is going to continue with this mobile style technology, the hybrid style system, if they want to have some semblance of competition, to be able to have the Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be, they're never going to catch up to home consoles. Like, that's not going to happen. But as we progress the technology, there is a thing called diminishing returns, so the difference doesn't seem as significant. And then with advances like this with DLSS, it does cut the gap a little bit. Doesn't cut it entirely, or even like so significantly that like you should just get the Switch and nothing else, but it does make a difference, right? It will make it slightly more comparable. So it makes sense for Nintendo to move in this direction if they're going to fully buy into mobile technology, which I think is obviously the play here.
Right. You want me to just go all in on my thoughts here then?
Yeah, do it.
All right. So I made a thread on Twitter, some of you guys may have seen, discussing this, but I think the biggest takeaway here is that no matter what, the next generation of Switch, if it has DLSS, not every game that's on the Switch currently will have it. The good thing about FSR versus DLSS, even though the quality of it is way lower, it can be used on any game without the developer actually having to do anything. Take, for example, the Steam Deck. It's not as good an implementation if they actually go in and patch it themselves, because it will upscale certain things like the HUD and different things. It does it a little bit more of a simpler, or I guess a dumb manner, you could say. So it upscales the entire image instead of actually having access to the game. But what this allows is every game that's on Switch currently can automatically use FSR to upscale the 4K on a 4K compatible Switch without the developer having to do anything there. Whereas DLSS, you have to go in and actually change your entire you have to essentially patch your engine to support it, and then patch the game as well. So there's a lot more developer time that needs to be done there, and that's just not something that people are gonna like Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal or whatever. Like these third-party games that really need some upscaling here are not gonna probably go back and patch those, just because that would require updating probably the SKU of it as well. There's just way too much stuff. So FSR, while not nearly as good as DLSS, to be fair, like not even close, it's still way better than, you know, running at native resolution. You're getting some upscaling there. It's way better than just normal upscaling. It is actually good, and we don't know where FSR will go in the future. The original DLSS 1.0 wasn't that great, to be honest. Like, it kind of sucked. It was barely more performant. The image really didn't look like native, and that's kind of what we're seeing for FSR, except much more performance there. So FSR could definitely get a lot better in the future and become closer to DLSS, but it's not a competitor. But the fact that Nintendo could be using both technologies, I think, would be helpful for their backwards compatible stuff in the future, as well as the here and now where DLSS just doesn't exist on the current Switch. Another thing I mentioned in the thread is the current cost for DLSS in general, just how much it costs to enable it, might be too high for a mobile chipset. We saw a member of Digital Foundry made a video, and I need to go back and rewatch it and really look into it to get the specifics, so I won't go over them here. But you guys should go look for that video on Digital Foundry. But they essentially go over the cost of DLSS in different, much more lower powered machines, and from what it seems like, it might not be possible for 60 FPS titles to use DLSS in general on a next generation Switch. But who knows what kind of advancements. Maybe NVIDIA is working on a special version of DLSS that's maybe not as high quality in the end, but it runs faster. So
something
I'm not
more
sure, but this could mean a lot of
for a mobile system. The other thing to consider, right, is that like we don't really know when Nintendo's going to release their next hardware. Like, I've been saying holiday 2023, but I could be wrong. And with the Mario Kart DLC, I'm not even that confident in that statement anymore. Like, I don't know. Like, it could still be holiday 2023, but it might not be. They might that kind of like, I feel like it moves it up, to be totally frank with you. I don't know. It's hard. I'm not committed to that idea. I do want to
see holiday 2024 with how the chip shortage is looking. It's looking like it might not get better till like towards the end of 2023.
Like, maybe what they do next year is like they do meet their pattern of having like a hardware every 2 to 2.5 years, but this revision isn't like a more expensive version. Maybe it's just like Switch Lite but with an OLED in it, right? So just kind of like a revision of like their mobile version. Kind of like the new 2DS XL sort of thing. Like, it's kind of like a tangential revision as opposed to like the
I feel
Premier
like the
system.
Switch OLED exists because Samsung had OLEDs already that were the same size. I'm not sure if they have OLEDs that are that size. They'd have like custom make it, so I'm not sure if it's as worth it for Nintendo to do that. Because it wasn't that like a big thing we were hearing before the OLED even was announced, that it was because Samsung already had the panels made.
I don't know. I do want to kind of like speak on just like on how good Nintendo Switch Sports looks. Like, there's something about it aesthetically that's
it does look very nice.
Really eye pleasing, right? And Dumo, kind of curious on what you think of this, because like it almost looks like a little bit like Splatoon. What do you think of that? Did Dumo freeze?
Yeah, it kind of looks like it.
Yeah, he's been scratching his face for a little bit there.
He's been
very long.
He's been so pensive for the longest time.
Oh,
Will
no.
he come back? He's so upset. What happened to him?
I hope he gets that itch when he gets back.
Yeah, let me see if I can reset that for him real quick.
Itching.
This doesn't show anything. Hold on.
I gotta check out the gameplay on Switch Sports though. I haven't actually seen. I didn't think anybody was actually going to like put it somewhere. And I mean, technically, I guess it's the internet, so like anyone would put it.
I'm just covering it with this
just
random Mario 30th thing just while I make adjustments here.
Didn't you have to like sign an NDA to get into the beta?
Yeah, right. Like I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Who's hosting these?
I don't know. So I haven't seen anything personally, so I don't have much to say on the how the game looks other than what was shown in the direct.
Yeah, same. But what was shown in the direct, I did think it looked nice. It's nice to see casual games that actually have good looking graphics.
Yeah,
I thought it looks very pleasing.
Yeah,
It's a surprising amount of detail too.
I will say, like, I was kind of at first when I first saw the game, I thought they're not Mii's, but they're like the new
Right.
I want to call them models. That they kind of threw me off a bit because I was so used to just
The
seeing
new
Mii's.
avatars, yeah.
Yeah. It threw me off a bit. I had a feeling of a little bit of uncanny valley looking at them for a little bit. But
I've
I
heard
feel
a lot
like
of people say that.
yeah, and I can understand it because I mean I felt the same way. But everything else in the game, like the visuals of like the stages that you're on and like the backgrounds, they look nice. They look nice.
Honestly, I didn't mind the avatars at all. In fact, when they were doing the part where they were actually playing the game and showing you, and they actually switched to Mii's, I didn't notice.
Really?
No, I don't know. I guess I wasn't paying attention. It just like they both kind of fit naturally to me in that environment. And plus, it's just the Mii heads. You don't have the Mii bodies anymore.
You know, look, it's funny because like I said, like at first it threw me off, right? But then once I actually saw when they were doing that gameplay where they had like a mixture of like the Mii's and the new avatars, then suddenly in that moment it like clicked in my brain that like the Mii's looked out of place to me now, and then the new avatars looked so much better because they just matched the environment so much better, while the Mii's still look like the game from Wii, you know? So it's like
It's got a very Ninjala aesthetic.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Dumo, you live.
You back, bro.
We thought you were just scratching that itch on your face for a little bit longer than maybe you should have been, and then we realized, oh.
You weren't here.
Yep. No, my ISP is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, love it.
It's
I love ISPs, bro.
every time I upgrade my internet package, it spends the first few months doing this, where it keeps dropping off randomly until we eventually tell them we're not paying until they fix it, and then it's fixed within a couple days.
So what I was asking you, Dumo, before we realized that you were in the abyss, is that I was just kind of curious how you felt about how Nintendo Switch Sports is looking, because I personally I've gotten like Splatoon vibes from it. Like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Splatoon. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm not sure if it's just because the kids are kind of like similar, or if it's like I don't know. It just seems similar to me. Does anyone else feel that way about it?
Is it like the little body, big head thing? Like, is
Maybe,
that what it is?
Maybe, but it's also like colorful and like the environments are like very like sort of modern, fun kind of thing. It just like seems like a very chill environment.
I don't really get it. I feel like they're just modernizing Wii Sports,
and that it could be it. I mean, that could be it. But
they can do a lot more on the system and still have it be like very little hit to it power wise. So it's something that you can play that thing. You're probably going to be able to play Wii Sports for a very long time tabletop.
I think it's gonna be a low on power consumption.
I'm looking at screenshots of it, and I like how much just stuff is happening in the background of every single different arena.
Right, like I was watching the Sword one, right, and you see like cars driving in the background, and there's like people chilling in this like area, just sort of watching, moving around. And then you obviously have the water, which is just pretty. Like it's just a very aesthetically pleasing game. It's a very aesthetically pleasing game, and it just looks good to me.
If you go back to Wii Sports, there was a lot of stuff going on in the background too.
It was super
a lot simpler.
Yeah, Wii Sports is basic.
Like crowds would react to you, like bowling. If you let go of that,
they would jump and freak out.
ZL, I guess. When you're on your backswing, the ball would go backwards, and everyone.
Yeah, which is neat.
So there was.
I think it was a lot less impressive when it was just like floating bodies.
Yeah, there was just the
Like a
detail for Wii
floating
Sports was super minimal though. It wasn't it was a good looking
The
game
lighting
for,
in this is
but it was
really
you
It was
know,
also
nice.
basically a GameCube CPU.
right. Yeah, so
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
to be minimalist with it in order for it to kind of look.
I mean, they
as good
could
as
have
it
done
did.
more than that. I'm
Oh,
sure,
they
but-
could have done way more than that, but you also have to remember this is that was a packaged game
Yeah.
where they were
No.
like that was like how can we show off this on minimal budget, and for what they did with it, the game was great.
I don't think anybody's like, man, Wii Sports would have been a better game if it had better graphics.
Yeah, it
I
should
don't
have
think
run on
anybody's arguing
CryEngine.
that, but
Yeah, that would
there you go.
that would have made a difference.
I'm sure that's great. For
We
the
would have
Switch.
sold 200 million systems instead of 100. Guarantee
But I'm
it.
just looking like the lighting. They're using a lot of really nice, I guess, probably baked lighting. I assume it looks great. I mean,
Pretty,
it's just
so
everything
pretty
about
looking
it.
game.
If we're talking about like an upscaling on it, they might actually there might be more going on in there than that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get something more than just baked on lighting. If like to do it on a game like the Switch Sports, like you're looking at a low power game that doesn't take a ton, and then they can experiment with that stuff a little bit more, and then they can
Yeah.
make money off their experimentation.
You know, it's interesting just kind of looking at like 2022 games, because I do feel like there is the Nintendo games, right? It feels like we're getting almost like the next. We literally are getting the next wave of Nintendo developed games, and I feel like we're actually seeing the difference in like their progression of technology, right? Like you take a look at so far what we've seen of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The worlds look very large, but they still seem to have like that attention to detail at the same time. Like it feels like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is definitely going to be the best looking in the series by a sizable amount, right? You see Nintendo
Yeah.
Switch Sports, it seems to be rather polished and aesthetically pleasing. Splatoon 3 seems to be taking a decent jump from Splatoon 2 as well. Breath of the Wild 2, we assume is going to be taking a big jump. We haven't seen enough to be like, yep, that game just looks way better than Breath of the Wild 1. But we're kind of assuming that, right? And then, you know, we're
The
probably
initial
going to...
trailer surely did, but who knows how much
Right.
it actually represents everything.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. But then you look at, for example, like Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, like that's more of an open environment that looks more detailed as well compared to the original. And then we're assuming we get Metroid Prime Remake this year. That might be a real looker as well, right? Like we're going to have some games on Switch. Actually, heck, Bayonetta 3, for example. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. There's other
Bayonetta
games.
3 looks amazing.
Yeah, those games look really good for Switch standards. So when I say for Switch standards, I mean like it's they're all aesthetically pleasing, but like if you want to like count pixels and all that other jargon, like then you're like, oh, it's garbage. It's only 900p, it's not 4K.
You
One
gotta
I'm
take
actually-
in mind that the Switch is like not that much more powerful than like the Wii U even.
One game.
Considering how good the games look, it's impressive. Sorry to interrupt you going.
Oh, okay, man. One game I'm really interested in how it turns out at this point in time is going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3, especially the graphical quality. For starters, I'm expecting them to have more than 26 people working on the project. Which
Yeah,
is a
right.
big
this
deal
is
for them.
this is like a whole all hands on deck kind of project now. Like this is
It's already
I
been
hope so.
double the development time so far.
yeah.
Mind you, it might be double the development time because you're still down to that same 26 because everyone else is off on Breath of
Fair.
the Wild 2.
Whatever it
we
is,
don't really know.
it's
but
more of a
so far
concerted
it looks
effort
good.
than Xenoblade 2. Yeah,
I hope.
yeah.
Or at least the people that they outsource to have a little bit more familiarity with them. And they
Yeah. I mean, we don't actually know, but based off rumors that were talking about this game getting announced soon and what it would be, and they've all been spot on. They said this would be a future of Xenoblade 2, but with characters from Xenoblade 1 because the futures are connected. Like so, it all lines up. But basically, the rumor said that this was going to be like Monosoft actually like having a concerted in-house effort and put in a lot of time for it and make sure it's very well polished by the time it releases. So
Strangely,
yeah.
it might seem kind of a random effect to talk about, but their screen space reflections look so much better. I remember the original Xenoblade Chronicles 2, every body of water had like any kind of foliage or an island or anything that would block the water or like the edges of the water would glow really annoyingly. It looks so bad and so distracting, and it doesn't look like that in Xenoblade 3. It looks good. It actually looks fine. So yeah, I noticed that straight away. For all you tech people out there who may or may not be in the chat, that's for you.
So for me, when I was looking at Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like the first thing that stood out, one of the first things that stood out to me, I should say, is that the world gives me like a scope vibe of Xenoblade X. And if you haven't played Xenoblade X, Xenoblade X has more scope than pretty much any game. So
a shot where he's running over that metal bridge thing, and you can see just in the background, that was huge, and way bigger than any Xenoblade 2.
Structures from both Xenoblade 1 and 2 just thrown in there, all over the place, like because the worlds are merged. So the game's like kind of like it has like the scope of Xenoblade X, but like the mythos and lore of Xenoblade 1 and 2, but also kind of like that more anime colorful feel of 2 at the same time, but with some semblance of realism from 1. Like it's like a mashup of all three is basically my point here. But like from a technology perspective, it does seem to be, again, we haven't seen a lot of it, but it does seem like a step up, like a noticeable step up from 2, which is to me pretty awesome. But
the only thing I could think of when I first saw it is, please let it be the full studio.
Yeah,
that's literally it.
Based off the rumor,
so much.
It seems to be.
Like, I've said it here. I've said it on this podcast before. If that's what they can do with big 20-some people, I want to see what their entire studio can do, and that actually is very exciting to me.
Yeah. I'm down. I'm right there with you, man. I want to see it.
There's a number of chats I want to get to, and then I want to talk about the Metroid Prime thing before Brandon goes, because I want to convince Brandon before he leaves, because I know how he feels.
You gotta hurry up, because I gotta go soon. So
I know how he feels. I'm gonna run through the chat real quick here. I'll just focus on ats and super chats. I see a few members were hitting me up as well. Mono64, hello man, thank you for the congratulations on the 200 episodes. Really appreciate it. Dwan Davis.
What's up, Sean?
How you doing, Dwan Davis? He's asking, hey buddy, how you doing today? What time is it so far? So I just got on break. I mean, we started not too long ago. You have a couple questions. Let's see. What's going on with the countdown? But to begin Street Fighter 6, or what's going on with the brand new Ninja Turtle game? Why didn't you take? I don't know what's going on with them, to be totally frank with you. I don't know. We'll wait till E3. We didn't get any news on the Ninja Turtle game, did we? Or the House of Dead remake, as Galactus also pointed out.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I want both of those games, so I'm right there with you guys. I don't know what's going on with them.
Not a huge Capcom fan, to be fair.
No, that's why your opinion is bad. But that's fine.
Oh man, you just keep going on with the hot takes today, man. What's going on?
I'm just kidding. Brandon and I have such a comfort level that I can just like say nonsense to him, and he's okay with it. Have you guys read the description? You guys should read the description, because I'm totally ranking on Brandon in the description too.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm about to go see it right
now. What's happening? Hold on.
Wow, I just... That's great. Oh, man.
Brandon, I didn't link your channel in the description. I linked both. I linked both.
That's fine. That channel is dead anyways. I mean, I might do something with it eventually, but it's gonna be something completely different.
I was supposed to link something. Oh, I linked your Twitter.
You're supposed to link my song.
No. So this is what I did. Oh yeah. What I did was
the only thing I care about.
I linked both Dumo and Shifty's channel, and then when it gets to you, it's just not even your YouTube name, it's just Brandon, and I just have.
HAHAHA.
But then I say JK and put your Twitter.
Fuck you. This is what I get for saying that Rex's hair is gray.
His hair is brown. Hey, but like 20% of people in it last week did agree with you. So
within the art, it looks very gray.
It's just lighting. It's just lighting. Yeah,
Rex's hair.
Let me look up though. I don't even.
If you look at all the Google images, pictures, his hair looks gray.
It's
like,
lighting. It's brown with light on it.
Mostly gray.
It's brown with light on it. Like, there's a lot of like anime characters where their hair looks blue, but it's actually black. It's just lighting. Like it's just lighting.
Right. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just kind of perpetuating the meme, but it looks gray. Let's be real. It looks gray.
There are gray pixels in the art, but it's not representing.
Hair. His hair's definitely not as brown as mine. I'll tell you that. I have brown hair. It never looks gray. I'm not that old. Yeah, give it a couple years.
Yeah, that's definitely brown with lighting. Just gonna say that now. That's my take.
Shifty's
How
80%.
Frickin' dare you?
Brandon, I think we're just destined to disagree consistently. Like, I think that's just our dynamic.
We don't disagree on everything.
We'll
You're
keep this up and see what
disagreeing about
happens.
disagreeing. Come on.
Oh, God. What are you doing?
It's just destiny, man. Just accept it.
Yeah. So Rel added me. Did any of you guys play Nintendo Switch Sports? My game looks good and plays amazing. My shoulder's actually sore. So I only saw footage of it. Game does look great. It looks like HD Wii Sports but better, which is pretty much what I want. But more games in there. That's how it looks with online. So I haven't played it because I was working, and then by the time like today I was like, all right, I'm gonna play Nintendo Switch Sports, and I saw that the only time to play it on Sunday was like at 6 a.m. or something. So
They barely even advertised it on
Yeah.
Twitter. It's like they didn't want people to play it for some reason, and they didn't want people
Weird.
to talk about it either.
I think they legitimately
want
just
people
wanted to do an online stress
streaming or-
test.
They didn't want streaming or talk about it, but at the same time, they didn't make it apparent. You had to like, scroll down and see it in like amongst other text.
I wonder if they were just
So-
worried because it's both a motion control heavy game and an online heavy game. So they were just wanting to be really cautious about both, like, because both those things can go wrong, right? So, but they're doing both at the same time. So maybe they
But
just want to be
you
really
can
careful
say-
about it.
You can say whatever you want about don't talk about this at all. And if both are bad and both are causing massive lag, people are going to post it and they don't care what
Yeah.
you say because it's going to be like, no. It's even worse that they're trying to hide. They know it's bad and they're trying to hide it. So that
Yeah.
honestly makes it even worse.
But was
for
it
them.
bad though? I don't know.
Man, I was
didn't get a
expecting it
chance
to
to
be
watch.
like the first Splatoon like
The
test
footage I
fire.
saw
That game, you
seemed
could not
pretty
get
great.
into a match.
The footage I saw seemed pretty great. Just me saying, I didn't like see a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know if you guys, Rel apparently did.
Everybody
and
on
it was
Twitter
fine.
seems to think it's good.
Yeah. So anyone who's played it, no one's complained about it. So I don't know.
I feel like if it was bad, they wouldn't test it at all. Like, they just wouldn't even give people the opportunity.
You know what? Maybe this is what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it has nothing to do with it. Maybe it's because they didn't want to advertise it because they didn't want a lot of people to try it out because they weren't ready for that much of a stress for their stress test.
That makes no sense to me. I
I-
feel
if
like
any-
you want more stress, don't you?
I don't know.
Nothing about it
if,
makes
if
sense to
anything,
me.
the only thing I can think of is that they had it there and it was a little bit hidden so that they could reserve the right to start taking things down if people started dogpiling on it for whatever reason.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
no, I get
literally
it.
the only thing. Because I know, like, when I was watching it, my group complained heavily about the change from the look of the characters. They were also very angry about the absence of Mii's. And
Really? I actually like. I
They
think
were
this
there.
game looks just way
But-
better. Like
Oh,
I think
yeah,
I actually
yeah.
I would like the aesthetic changes. Like I'm like actually happy that they decided to go in this direction. Personally,
so am I, but a bunch of people in my VC at the time were not pleased. And to be honest, with the way things have gone over the last few years, where the most random thing can just sort of set everyone off, I wouldn't be surprised if that was just like a fail-safe if people, for whatever reason, started dogpiling on it, and they're like, all right, take it all down. You weren't allowed to
I
show
don't
any
know.
of it. It was right there in an agreement.
it's just strange, right?
That
Like
you
if you
didn't
want to
actually agree
market the
to, it was
game,
just something
why are
that-
you limiting the marketing of the game? You know, maybe Nintendo's
Man, why
experimenting.
even have to opt into a beta? Why not just have
I don't
you
know.
be able to download?
I hope they
the
do
app
another
like
stress
you
test.
could
It's
with
like more
Splatoon?
widespread. Maybe they'll do another one before it comes out. Hard to say, but I do want to run through the chat real quick. Just a few people were congratulating me on hitting 200, which I do appreciate. I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you all for pointing that out. I wanted to get like specific chats, but I'm kind of losing some of them in the comments. JR
go in,
Tolkien,
like,
AR,
the next
congrats
5
on
to 10
200
minutes, by the
episodes.
way.
I gotcha. I know you're not celebrating, but most podcasts don't make it past 10. Way to outperform by 2,000%. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I enjoy doing this, so I'm going to keep on doing it. Yubakor, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will look better in handheld mode? Better in handheld compared to dock mode? No. Will it look better in handheld mode compared to previous games? Yes. By how much? Probably not. I bet the resolution's
They
still
asked
going to
about
be kind of blurry.
Xenoblade 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the Xenoblade 2 is infamous for looking like absolute.
I think it's gonna.
crunchy.
I think it's gonna have a relatively low resolution. Because that just seems to
I
be
think
an
it'll
across the
be-
board thing for all of them. But it's not going to be as horrendous as Xenoblade 2.
No, yeah, I definitely think it'll be a lot better. They've had a lot more time to actually work on the engine. For 2, they essentially had 2 years to port the engine while trying to make the game. And
With
the engine was
basically-
geared around Xenoblade X 2. Didn't even support a lot of the features that they needed for the game. So I can definitely see why it ran as badly as it did.
We're also talking about the launch of the system where
Yeah.
there was more than one studio complaining and having problems with figuring out how to get it to switch back and forth and actually change the resolution. We had
Yeah.
games that were 720 both ways because they couldn't figure out how to bump it up to 1080 on the Switch.
Forgot about that, yeah.
on the-
That was
on-
a
on-
big
like, as
issue
you
at first.
undock- or as you docked it. Will it look better in handheld mode? Honestly, I think they're going to be pretty similar. So it's going to come down to, do you have an OLED switch? And do you have a bad TV or monitor?
Oof.
Oof.
That's an oof. Because if there was anything on the technical side of Xeno 2 that I would want improvement, it would be that. You know, like that's
Yeah.
like the one.
They
major...
also use like a very crappy version of TAA, which with that low resolution just makes everything look really blurry.
What
Yeah.
day was the Nintendo Direct? Like February 6th or something?
12.
The direct?
Don't ask me about timeline things.
So it was not last Thursday, but the Thursday before, so it was the 10th. I'm just scrolling through Nintendo's Twitter because I'm trying to find a particular thing that was posted around then about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's all.
Hmm.
It's in relation to what we're talking about, basically.
Mm.
I think I'm close.
I think it was the. You sure it was the 10th or was it the 9th?
It was the 10th. Or the 9th.
Mm.
It was the 9th. Because it was on a Wednesday. I thought it was on a Thursday. It was on a Wednesday, actually. So
Yeah.
you're
Weird
right.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found what I wanted. So on February 9th, because this is actually in the literally a question right below you, of course, super chat. Elias Belbal was asking, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is developed by the main Takahashi team, the ones who did Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like, I didn't see confirmation of that necessarily, right? But based off the rumor from Imran Khan, it would suggest so. But then also I checked Nintendo's Twitter, and I'll just read this. I want to learn more about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Read this message from the game's executive director, Mr. Takahashi. So, I think that's suggestive that it is being made by the same team, which suggests a large-scale development of this game. So, yeah, they're all hands on deck. This is a big one.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yep. Hello there, Nintendo. Welcome. So, a few ads here. Rel saying the game ran amazing. Switch Sports is pretty good. Cool. Guy you don't know, hello there. Alright, so Brandon, I know you have to leave soon. So
Hit me with the quick version of this
all right.
topic.
Okay, so basically Retro Studios showed
I
the
did
first
see your
concept art of
video, by
Metroid
the
Prime
way.
4 and you're wrong.
All right. I guess I'll go over my quick reaction. I saw your video. I do think it's probably for Metroid Prime 4. Don't think it's going to be shown off this year, though.
Yeah, that is so yeah, to be more specific, joking aside, let me see if I can show it to you guys here on the stream. Give me a second here.
I mean, it could be teased this year, but
It could be, but the thing is, because I think you agree with me, we're going to see Metroid Prime remake this year, so it's kind of like why show off both, right? That's kind of where my hesitation's at. But I also think based off from the rumors, which I also believe, Retro Studios has also developed Metroid Prime remake, so it's kind of like Retro Studios is going to be showing off content that they've been working on the last few years finally this year.
that would be nice.
So
I'd love that.
Yeah, I posted the image on the stream for those watching the stream. But if you guys want to check Retro Studios Twitter, you can see the image there as well. And the borders are cut off, but there's nothing really important there. So but it's a very detailed image of Samus in a dark hallway with blue lights. If you can look all the way in the back, there is structures actually designed in the back. Looking carefully at this, it does look like perhaps this is almost like a sewage chamber, right? Because if you look carefully, it's like little divots for like something to pour into this pathway. Now it's maybe not sewage, right? Maybe it's like a lava chamber or like a poison chamber or something.
I thought it was like steam vents hissing out steam, like you see in like the original trailer for Dread.
Maybe
when the enemies dropping down, the steam vents are popping up.
Maybe that. I'm just thinking about how like there's like a roundish path and there are little holes in the sides. It just seems to me that something's supposed to pour in there. But either way, it's very clearly like a dark it's like a dark tunnel, like a wide, long, dark tunnel. Spooky, creepy, lots of shadows. Things can hide in there. We see Samus in there. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. But sneezing just keeps coming, man.
He's dying, folks. He ain't gonna
trying to stop you from talking about Metroid Prime again.
Don't you dare! Yeah, this is. I'm getting attacked by the Nintendo ninjas because I'm speaking truth.
What they put in your drink, man?
I thought it was water. Nintendo ninjas, they're getting me. So that shadow is Silex. It's not Samus. You heard it here. Well, okay, I'm joking, but I'm being serious at the same time. Like, obviously, okay, so straight up, I think this is definitely teasing Metroid Prime goodness this year. It may not be like specifically this is an actual room in Metroid Prime 4, but it is to me an opening of, hey, Retro Studios is priming up, pun intended, for a sort of marketing campaign of Metroid Prime games. Like, I think at the very least, that's what this is.
I definitely think that they're going to show something this year with at least Prime Remake. So I definitely think... I do think this is Prime 4 related, but I'm not necessarily sure if it's hinting that they're going to show Prime 4, if it's just because Prime 4 is the only thing we know they're working on. So that's the art, and that's the big game they're working on, so that's the art they're going to show. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to come up with Metroid Prime-themed art. Like, first off, that's not confirmed they're making a remake, so that would be weird to do that. And secondly, they're gonna be their big game. Like, Prime 4 is obviously the big one, so. But they don't, like, update their Twitter, like, hardly ever.
Right,
so
and rarely is it with actual, like,
maybe they're
imagery.
Doing something.
Yeah. Like, if they update their Twitter, it's, like, ribs. Or just, it's really just... I mean, look, I'm gonna go to the Twitter right now.
Just job listings, isn't it?
Yeah,
like trying to find hire people.
We're literally gonna look at it right now. Look, we can check their media. we can look at it. I don't know. Can you guys see me actually looking at it on the thing? Yeah, you
on
can.
The Discord.
Yeah,
on the stream.
On the stream. Yeah.
Oh,
God, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Media. All right. Look,
while you
listing,
guys look at
job
that,
listing.
I gotta go.
I got you, man. Have a great night.
I will see you guys later.
We will see you soon, buddy.
Great
Take
being
care.
on for the 200th stream. See you guys, chat. Bye.
Bye. So, I mean, just look. Oh, look, there's some Texas food, man. Like, Happy New Year. Like, they just post about, like, prime meat and job listings. That's all they do. Look at it. It's prime rib. Happy holidays. Oh, look, they did a meme. Okay. Prime rib. All right. That's it. It's just like memes, prime rib. Oh, beans to go with your prime rib. Oh, Taco Tuesday. Okay. Oh, Funky Kong.
Ask,
who runs this Twitter account?
Yeah, A, who runs it, and B, is this why it takes so long for them to get a game out? Is he having ribs?
I mean, wordy. But
if so, like,
okay. I want to point out
openings?
This is all. Everything I showed you dates back all the way to October 2017. So we just went back years,
and that was just like a minute of scrolling. Like, not even.
We just went through a half a decade of tweets from Retro Studios. So the fact that we're seeing this banner, I think, is actually big news, because they never show anything like this, right? That is true. I feel like I illustrated that point by showing that they literally don't post anything but like stupid memes and prime rib and job postings. Like,
but
that's it.
Here's the thing, though. Like, what if that is the only thing they post for another year and a half?
That may be the case. I looked up, because remember when the Splatoon team posted about Jesus, it's now Twitter's broken.
New Year's, the SOS?
The SOS, that was January 2020, and what happened? The next year, they announced Splatoon 3. But I'm trying to go to Retro Studios main page to show you the image again. There we go. Anyway, there now it should be visible. Yeah, like that's. It took them. So 2 and 3 is going to come out what, like late summer, right? So from when that image was shown, which we didn't know was necessarily a tease, right? I thought it was a tease, but we didn't know for a fact it was a tease, right? It turned out it was, and it was literally teasing the salmon. It's being your partner in Splatoon 3. But the game's gonna come out like 2.5 years after the release of that tease. So could this be a tease? And does that mean that Prime 4 comes out summer 2024? I don't think so. I think it's closer than that. But you know, there's definitely like a precedent for it. We see art, but it doesn't mean we see the game like come out that same year or anything like that. Like I definitely don't think Prime 4 is coming out this year. The question really comes down to, do we see more than just this piece of art for Prime 4 this year? Like I think that's really where the debate's at right now.
I'm not really sure, honestly. Like I want to say, because of all the like rumors circling around, whether it's like there's a remake or the trilogy like re-releasing or whatever the case may be, I want to say like something like that has to come first, just because like we've heard so many things about like those two different ideas, right? But they also like to post about Prime Ribbon and be gone for a year, so I don't really know like where to really gauge it.
It's tough, especially seeing like big games. Like a lot of games, Nintendo wants to put something out and then have the game out very, very soon after. But big games, they like to get people talking about it, make them panic as to where it's going, and then start showing the game off, and then release the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a year for them to do anything with it.
I want to remind you guys that in 2020, we actually had a Metroid tease from the Paper Mario Origami trailer. They had the whole Samus thing at the end of the trailer. Like, sure, there's a cool Samus cameo, and there's also Donkey Kong one, but the Samus thing was what they used to end the initial reveal trailer for Paper Mario. Like, I felt like that was intentional. Not necessarily saying that Metroid is coming out immediately, although Metroid Dread ended up coming out, you know, about a year later, right? A little bit over a year later. But the team that the developer who made Paper Mario is the same team. The Kensuke Tanabe is the producer for both that game and also Metroid Prime. So, you know, it does, if you think about it, like you had that tease and you have the whole big marketing push for Metroid Dread. Now you have this, right? And then at E3, I'm assuming you get a Metroid Prime remake. Like, there is clearly, like, Nintendo wants to know about, you know, like Metroid. Like, they want to continue talking about these little things like this, keep it in the conversation, keep it relevant. So, you know.
And I feel like they have to be making a bigger push for Metroid right now. Dread did so well. Yeah. People are really excited for Prime. People really want Prime Trilogy. They have to keep bringing Metroid back into the conversation, because they really need they need it to come back as like a full-fledged series that's actually going to be active again, because it fills niches that they need filled. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree with that. Let me see here. I'm trying to. All right, there's the podcast. I gotta fix it because when Brandon leaves, the images are all messed up. So I'm trying to fix that here. Well, it's Mario 35th anniversary again. It never ends. It never ends.
I see. I was taking the spot of both me and Brandon there.
Yeah,
I could fill in for both.
I'm trying to fix it.
Yeah. You can just disagree with yourself all night.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. No, it doesn't make sense at all. What do you mean?
We got this.
Yeah. Oh man.
There, I'll cover the image, the whole screen with this while I fix stuff. That actually doesn't help. I just have to actually edit it like right here randomly. Not that one. Which one is it? Oh
man, just leave that up and just bring our cameras forward. Oh, I guess you can't really do that. Not with the.
I almost got it. We're almost there. I was gonna move our name, Shifty's name there, and then throw Brandon's out the window, and then There.
Yeah, that works.
There we go.
Nice.
Didn't think that wasn't that bad. Yeah, so let me check on the chat real quick because I haven't looked at the chat in a while because stuff. Modifications. Okay, I see another super chat here from Taker610. Thank you very much, Taker. Hopefully Samus wasn't in there dying SB halftime in the Super Bowl during the Super Bowl halftime. Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. I see Game Over Jesse in the chat. What's up, buddy? How you doing? I was looking on their website earlier, and they have 11 or 12 different positions they are hiring for. So I don't know why people are going crazy when someone mentions a single specific listing. Yeah, they're always hiring. They're always hiring. So, you know, they're continuously hiring, but like it's kind of like what the only news we have for Metroid. So it's like people say, hey, there's no hiring. What does this mean? It means the game
something's
exists. Right. They've been hiring for years.
Breath of the Wild was hiring what, like right up until the game released.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Like,
like development doesn't just stop because they need one person doing like I don't know textures or something. Like they're working on it the entire time as they're hiring.
Right, and who's to say they're not gonna make something after Metroid Prime 4 where that's what they're hiring for, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you know, I don't think hirings are bad news.
They're just neutral news.
Yeah, that was neutral news.
It's bad news when they are hiring for like some sort of leadership position when a game should already be done. That can be a little bit scary.
But it could mean that
they now have 2 projects lined up, and now they need more leadership because they're going to be splitting projects. You don't really know, but
yeah, like I mean, even then, what if they just finished their project and they moved on, right? So they're hiring new leadership for a new project. So it's not, it's hard. There's not enough information to say if it's really like bad or good. It just is. It's neutral, to your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kitano Tatsu here. I'm wondering whether Retro is actually the one making a Prime remake. We already know that they're making Prime 4, so they've got a lot on their plate. So, Retro Studios hasn't released a new game, since 2014. All they've done since 2014, and when in 2014 they released Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Since then, the only thing that has happened is that they released in early 2018 Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze again. And all they added to Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze was Funky Kong. And I think they updated some idle animations for Donkey Kong to have Joy-Cons instead of a Wii U gamepad. That's it. I think there's like a cameo of Samus's ship in there, but I'm not sure if that was in the original. Basically, the game is the same. Virtually the same, like 99.9% the same. So they didn't really do much. And they did okay. I'm not saying it was a bad port. It was a fine port, but that's all it was. It was a port. It wasn't like even a greatly enhanced port. It was a port with an easy mode. That's what they did. That's all they've done for the last 8 years. At least publicly, that they've released publicly. So what they've been working on stuff, right? Now the story, and I've talked about this before, but the story is based off rumors, and a lot of this comes from Imran Khan, who, by the way, has proven himself to be very correct about the entire Xenoblade Chronicles 3 situation. So if you didn't take this person seriously, if you don't, value his history working with Game Informer or where he's working now, I think it's like Fanbyte. He just kind of like. I feel like, coming off this the entire thing about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is like 100% spot on. Like this actual story, the merging of the worlds, the announcement timing, like it's all been pretty darn close. So anyway, what he said about what he heard from the whole Metroid Prime restart Retro Studio situation was that yes, Metroid Prime 4 was in development by a different developer, supposedly Bandai. Oh God, keep sneezing.
Retro again.
It's because of the Nintendo ninjas. They don't want me to talk about this.
You know too much.
Apparently. Anyway, sneezes. You could do away for the time being. The idea of supposedly what happened is that Bandai Namco was having the time of their lives, struggling to make Metroid Prime 4 in different parts of the world because it was like multiple places making different parts of the game, and Nintendo was like, yeah, this is not going to work. But meanwhile, Retro Studios put together a demo. This demo supposedly was like, hey, this is what we can maybe do if we were to like remaster or remake Metroid Prime. Nintendo saw that build, they're like, hey, that's awesome. Do that, but also make Metroid Prime 4. And that's when they announced the restart back in January 2019. So since then, they took whatever that build was and they've been making that into what is supposedly going to be a Metroid Prime remaster that maybe is announced this year at E3. And then they'll follow that up with Metroid Prime 4. So basically what I'm saying here is that based off rumor, both Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 4 are developed by Retro Studios. They've been working on both. They were working on Metroid Prime Remake first, but that is probably a good basis, a good foundation to make Metroid Prime 4 afterwards. Like if they have a new engine that they use to remake Prime 1, you then build off that and make Prime 4. So,
I mean, it could explain the long span of time, because as unbelievable as it may sound, it does not take 8 years to make Funky Kong. So I could definitely see
he's the most powerful Kong, though.
Sure?
I mean, I'm not a game developer, so I can't tell you like if it takes that long or not.
Another thing about Retro Studios that should be noted is that there are developers known for an obscene amount of attention to detail, like to the point where it's maybe not even like they probably shouldn't. Yeah, exactly. Like I remember reading an interview at some point where every room in Metroid Prime is completely original. Like, so in most cases, most developers would just like redo the same texture. Retro Studios would take that texture and rework it so it's a unique texture. So basically, there's like there's very minimal copy and pasting in the original Metroid Prime. I have to go back to the interview to like, so you know, I'm definitely paraphrasing here, but point is, they went above and beyond to make that game feel very organic, more so than probably needed. And I think that does definitely, assuming they've maintained those similar philosophies, whatever they're working on, they take their time with it. Granted, Metroid Prime was done very quickly. There's a lot of crunch back then, but if the idea behind Retro Studios is still maintain like that high attention to detail, they're gonna take their time with things, and they've been taking their time because it's been 8 years since they've given us a new game. So obviously, there's probably been some like development hell stuff going on in the background, but
right,
yeah,
it does kind of pique my curiosity a bit to know that, like, if this was the situation that happened where essentially they showed off like a remake of Metroid Prime, and then they basically said like, hey, you know, how about you do 4 and this at the same time? I'm really curious to know what the hell happened with Bandai Namco's like what would that look like? Like I feel like one day, like maybe like 10 years from now, we're gonna see some kind of leaked footage of what that game looked like, and we'll see like what that could have been. Not that it would have been amazing, because I don't know, I'm kind of choosing to judge. Maybe it's just kind of, I'm just kind of thinking about it from a perspective of like, I'm just very curious to see what they saw on that end and what they saw from Retro that made them like decide that like very quickly, like just suddenly like redo everything. Because redoing everything from scratch is not exactly an easy decision to make, right? Like that's
they lost a lot of money from that,
especially after you've announced the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's one thing if no one knew about it and you're like, okay, well we'll eat the time and they're like we'll eat time and cost loss. But to announce the game and then so soon afterwards take that hit to your reputation on top of everything,
yeah, from like a video game like history perspective, I'm very, and maybe even preservation like perspective, I'm very interested to know what that game could have looked like.
I hope they turn it to Star Fox Grand Prix.
You know what? That is actually pretty legit, though. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up finding out years from now that a game that came out a couple years later, it's like, well, that was built, like that was what Prime 4 was supposed to be, and then when it got scrapped, they found a way to repurpose everything into a new game.
So we ever get like a
the
weird
look of everything,
right?
And we'd never know. Like we would never know.
I don't know. I might know. I'm not saying I know. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that it would, to your point, right? Like, it wouldn't shock me if we do get something in the future we're like, man, this is a really cool like shooting game. Like, what made Nintendo make this? You know, I was like, maybe we'll even think, man, if Nintendo could have made like a multiplayer Metroid like this, right? And then as it turns out, well, actually, it was initially gonna be a Metroid Prime game, but we changed it around, right? Like, so if we ever get something from Bandai Namco that has like shooting elements or like space elements in it or something, or mechanics that we could maybe envision in a Metroid Prime game, that might be it, you know?
Yep.
Maybe.
The thing is, it might not even be on a Nintendo console.
That's true. That's a good point. Very good point.
Just because it started on a Nintendo console doesn't mean that they end it there. The project's been canceled. It's dead in the water. They're going to take whatever assets they can. They're going to repurpose them because that's how business works.
Yeah. I mean, there are games that feel very Metroid Prime like, because some of those developers were from in the initial project. Like Recore, I think, had some ex-Retro Studios developers. Heck, when 343 Industries, right, they started making Halo games. Like, they had a very Prime like look to them. Like the Space Pirates, they looked like Space Pirates, right? Because there were ex-Retro Studios devs in there. I think even the Star Wars game that came out recently with
Jedi Fallen Order.
Like that has some ex-Retro Studios devs, and all those games kind of have like, you kind of can see like, oh yeah, I see where that sort of came from. Granted, all those developers from Retro Studios, they used to work on Turok before that, right? So like, that's the real root of it all. But and that was like Iguana Entertainment. I think Iguana Entertainment turned into Retro Studios. There may have been like, obviously some of those people left, but that's a whole other history thing there. Yeah. Let me just take a couple more things in the chat here. Guy you don't know added me. While I do think there is some purpose for this banner image being posted, I don't think there's enough to draw from the image itself to form any legitimate claims about Prime 4. Maybe. You could be right. Could be right.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely just be going for a general feel. Like, this is what Metroid feels like. So this is an image that represents that, more so than an actual like location that you would see in the game.
Yeah,
it can easily just be concept art.
Yeah,
right. Well,
it could literally be concept art for Prime 4, that has realistically nothing to do with the game. We see concept art like that all the time.
Yeah, so very loosely may give us some vague understanding of the game. The game's gonna be dark. It's gonna have spooky elements.
It features Samus.
You could get it with Samus with a very different looking outfit, and at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that it wasn't concept art made for Prime 4. It just means that they went with a different concept. Right.
I mean, have you seen some of the concept art for like Breath of the Wild? Right, like, there's some very like horrific looking things that did not materialize in the final game. It would be cool, you know. Maybe they see them in the sequel, right? That they do go back to previous ideas. Like, I'm kind of hoping we see like Minish and like UFOs in Breath of the Wild too, but that's a whole other discussion. Elias added me. The rumor is that Retro were doing Prime 1 remaster, remake, and show it to Nintendo in 2018. And that's when they got handed over Prime 4. Basically, yeah, that's a good summation of the situation for sure. Nintendo Prime. Those white panels are hilarious. I love them. I may add more. Yeah, just to help the audio of the room a little bit, like that, the echo. But let's. Is there? I mean, I could dive more into this concept art. I absolutely could. And if you guys have more questions about it in the chat, I will get to it, for sure. But
that means he's asking for more questions, guys.
Yeah, but there was a. I did join a discussion with both Rob from Little Review and Dave from Super Mario 64 on Rob's channel. That came out, I want to say Thursday or last Friday, and we had an hour-long discussion just on this piece of art. And I posted a video yesterday about this, so you can definitely check that out. I'll check out this. There's a couple of chats here about related to this though. Jordan Cup, I know a picture is a picture, but it's not unreasonable to expect at least news on Metroid Prime 4 by November. I still think it's probably just a pic, but why not just slap a more classic pic of Samus? It's generating hype, you know? I think that alone is reason enough to post something like this.
I would say it's definitely related to their future Metroid projects. What like regardless of what that would be, like obviously it would be 4, but I could easily see a situation where like somebody's working in the art department of Retro Studios and said, "Oh, hey, I really like this concept art. That would look good on Twitter," and then they just put it up in a banner and they didn't really think much about it. But
maybe, yeah,
like it could be that. It could be something as little as that, but it could also just be like the beginning of a marketing campaign. But I don't know. For some reason, I get the impression that like if it was the beginning of a marketing campaign, it would be Nintendo like just blasting us in the face with like a trailer and information and like all these things.
Thing with it is it's non-committal because it doesn't actually show any real detail.
Right.
So to me, yeah, it could definitely be Prime 4 concept art because it's something nice to throw out there. They've committed to absolutely nothing on appearance, on scale, on anything at all. So, you know, it can go either way. It's like I wouldn't say it's 100% that's what it is, but
yeah,
it's easy enough to say. Like if they were to come out and be like, no, that was concept art, it shows up in the art book later on, you know, it's like, yeah, well, you know, not overly surprising.
I mean, it definitely leaves a lot for interpretation at the very least.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot to interpret. Oh man, I think the shadow is a symbolic metaphor of a dark counterpart to Samus. You could just say it's a shadow, but I think it's a dark counterpart to Samus, and maybe the image is like first-person perspective of Samus's enemy chasing her down, about to fight her off in a dark hallway, and that enemy is Sylux. Because if you look at the shadow, it doesn't quite match Samus, but you know who it might match more closely? Sylux. So just pointing it out there. Just pointing it out
the
there.
art image does look like it's got stuff coming up and down. It does look like it could be a mask from the helmet.
Maybe it is possible, right? It is possible. So
there's a lot of options there.
A lot of options. It could just be art, and it goes both ways, right? Like for example, Watermelon Mario. What was Watermelon Mario? It was a new render that we've never seen before with so much detail. Must mean that Nintendo has a Sunshine remake on our hands, right? Well, no, but actually kinda, because we did get a year later 3D All-Stars with a remastered widescreen 1080p 60 FPS Mario Sunshine, which was the best version of Mario Sunshine yet. So it was remastered. Technically, not entirely wrong, but still kinda wrong. So, you know, there's that, right? But then you have things like the SOS, which was teasing something Splatoon, which people are like, nah, it's just a New Year's celebration. No, it was literally teasing the actual story in Splatoon 3. So, you know, it goes both ways. Context is important, right? If it's something about Mario and it's just a summer, maybe not a big deal. But if it's Retro Studios who never post anything ever, and all of a sudden we see this art that's clearly for Metroid Prime, and we know they're working on Metroid Prime 4, and we know there are credible journalists and industry insiders saying that they're working on Metroid Prime Remake as well, then it's not a big logical leap to say, hey, there's something. Maybe it doesn't tell us too much, but it's just like, hey, at least they're like, we're getting close to something, I think we're getting close to more actual real information. Now, what is close? I would say close is within a year and a half. So, we'll see. That basically gives me all the way up until E3 2024. 2020 yeah. E3 2023 before I can say I'm wrong on the art. So
nice safe bet on that one.
Yeah, I got two E3s.
I'd say that's pretty safe. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Well played, sir. Well played.
But let's jump into the big topic. And again, guys, questions and all that can happen whenever. But we've had some times already. It's what? It was on the 9th. It's the 20th. It's been 11 days or 10 days, 10 and a half days since the Nintendo Direct, right? And I felt like this would be like a good kind of biggish topic just for, you know, podcast 200. And whenever you guys are here, it's always a long discussion anyway. But
yeah, we don't tend to shut up very quickly.
No.
With the and this is a very open topic, right? So this can divulge a whole bunch of
Let's be honest. Kind of the saving grace on this one is that Brendan had to go because you had 4 of us like this, and it's just not going to stop.
No, and I mean the reason I'm doing the podcast at 8 now is that I have to get up early. Like I cannot go past like. I'm gonna say a time, and I know I'm gonna go past that time, so I'm not gonna say a time, right? Because if I say no, I'm just.
It's a silent promise to yourself.
It's a silent promise to myself. Anyway, point is, we're gonna talk about our 2022 expectations for Nintendo. Now the Nintendo Direct has come and gone. Like, what has it sort of? What ideas have been strengthened by the news of Nintendo Direct, and what information has perhaps changed? Like, what some expectations have sort of changed since then as well, right? Like, so after Kirby and the Forgotten Land was announced, I was thinking, man, May's kind of vacant. Are we getting Splatoon 3 in May? No. We're not getting Splatoon 3 in May. In fact, we're not even, I don't even think we're getting it in June. I think we might be getting it in August. Because what the Direct announced, great, by the way, the Direct did a great job of outlining Nintendo's like year, and it's just kind of astounding how many games we have to play before hypothetically August. Because we're first off, we get Mario Kart DLC next month, right? We get Triangle Strategy, and we get Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and then in April we get Nintendo Switch Sports and Advance Wars, right? And then probably in May we'll have maybe, I don't know. We don't know about May yet, but I can speculate, right? We'll save that for another time. But then in June we're getting Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem Warriors, a new one. I'm remembering that correctly, right? Yeah, I am. And then, do we have anything confirmed for July yet? We might not. We know that Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is coming out around the summer as well. So Splatoon 3 is confirmed for summer. We don't know when in the summer. It's confirmed for summer. And August. No, we don't know about August yet either. But we do know Splatoon. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is in September. So Nintendo did a good job of like saying, hey, look, you actually have like 6 games to play like pretty early on. Like it's like more like. It's crazy because we have a lot of months where it's like 2 games per month, right? And then Mario Kart DLC is going to be coming out throughout the year as well. So it's kind of a lot there. But it's too much. It's too much. Yeah, because I won all of them. I want like all those games I mentioned. I want all of them.
Yeah, I want a good majority of those. Like this is also a good chance for me to get into Strikers since I never actually played them. I've always heard of the games and I've just never played them. And it's like. Mind you, I'm just not a sports guy personally, like just in general. So as a kid, I would see a Mario sports title and go like, oh, I don't want Mario in sports. I want to jump around and step on turtles and things like that. But clearly, I missed out on something because everyone clearly loved Strikers enough to like freak out about it. So maybe this is the time I take that jump in.
Take a look at some of the old footage of it. I don't even know what's around. There's got to be footage around of it, but it was fun. It was just a blast.
It's great.
I was
tackling
playing
people
that
into the side and you haven't seen them get electrocuted, and you see a skeleton.
Now, granted, I was playing this in college, so like there's lots of people around. And there's always 4 people playing. It was a great time.
Yeah,
I definitely got to get into it, and I think. I want to say I think the only game I might be skipping out on just for personal reasons is this Triangle Strategy. It just doesn't grab me as much as I thought it would. But I don't know, like every other game, especially like the only concern I have now is whether or not I'm gonna have time to play both Xenoblade 3 and Breath of the Wild 2 if they release like near the end of the year. Yeah, because those are long games.
I mean, I think Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in November.
No,
we don't know that yet, but
we don't. Yeah, but
I'm in such a bad spot right now with all these games because I'm back playing Final Fantasy 11 and it's their 20th anniversary this year. So we're talking MMO hitting a 20th anniversary.
I still haven't finished Legends Arceus.
All the games. Oh, I've barely even gotten a chance to play it. I've been so busy.
I love the game. It's
fantastic.
Yeah, I love the game. Like I want to play the heck out of this game. I just haven't had the time. Like, I think I saw my Switch was saying I've clocked over 35 hours into it, which I would say is a decent amount, but I know pretty much everyone else I know has done, like, way more than that. And beaten the game, I haven't. So, I take my time with it. Like, I'm, like, actually, like, trying to, like, collect stuff and, like, complete the decks. I'm not rushing through the story. I don't care for the story, even though I know it's better than previous Pokemon games.
It's Pokemon in story. Nah.
It's a low bar to set. Like, it's not a very high bar. I mean, I managed to beat the game. I did most of the post game content. The only thing I haven't done was attempt to get the shiny charm, and that's because that's just a level of dedication I just do not have for the game.
Yeah, that's where I just buy another game.
Yeah, that's when I've decided I'm done. I'm finished.
Yeah.
With what I'm doing. But I think for 2022 specifically, like the way the games look as of now, to me, I want to say my expectations are kind of high, because I don't see I see some of these games being okay to, they're decent games, like they'll be fun to play, and they won't blow my mind or anything, but considering that we got Xenoblade 3 and Breath of the Wild 2 within the same year already, to me makes this like one of the best years, along with like 2017.
Bro, we're getting Nintendo Switch Sports. This year's the best year ever.
I mean, yeah.
You think I'm joking?
Yeah.
No, no, like real talk. I think this year's were crazy, right? Like we open up with Legends Arceus, which is probably gonna be the best-selling Pokemon game ever, or one of them. It might be. It's for a lot of people. It's like their favorite Pokemon game. Like that's a great start.
Yeah.
March, we're getting Mario Kart DLC. We're getting Triangle Strategy, which I'm also actually kind of with you, Shifty. It's not a personal thing for me, but for a lot of people, I know it is. I am big on Kirby, though. Kirby's going to be crazy for me.
Kirby looks dope. Like,
yeah.
that game looks great.
And then in April, we're getting Advance Wars, which I'm getting Advance Wars. Like, I played Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance and the DS, and that was awesome. So, like, I'm getting Advance Wars, and I'm getting Nintendo Switch Sports, which I don't know if you've heard, but I'm very excited for it. Like, I'm very excited for it, right? And I bet in May we're probably getting more Mario Kart DLC. Maybe not that early. But in summer, we're getting the Sunbreak expansion for Monster Hunter, which I'm all in on.
See, we got to get back on that.
I'm all in on Mario Strikers. I'm probably, I could see myself skipping the Fire Emblem Warriors thing. Like, it looks fun. I did love Three Houses. Yeah, that's the one I might have to skip.
I have to make cuts somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. If I get fired, maybe I'll play it. I'll have time. I hope I don't get fired, though. So,
It really... you mentioned there was another game releasing on the same time as Warriors. What was that again? It was...
Mario Strikers and Warriors are both coming out in June, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I might have to make a decision on that. Because I kind of do want the Warriors game because I like the idea.
Yeah.
I like how it looks, right?
I don't know. I might have to do both. We'll see. It's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
You know what it is? I think Nintendo puts those like month gaps because they know we don't have enough time to play it through every game. Yeah.
You know what? If that's their strategy, I fully accept it because there's no way I'm gonna have time to play all of these games back to back. Like this, I'm just not going to.
Like, and then the thing is, like, when do we get Mario Rabbids? When do we get Splatoon 3? Those we don't know when Mario Rabbids is coming out, right? Assuming it's not delayed, this is kind of where I'm at with the year, right? So I'll just tell you where I'm kind of at here. So I think in terms of what we don't know about, I just lost my. Okay, I lost the chat for a moment. I was pulling it back up. All right, so. Because they sort of confirmed they confirmed the free DLC for Dread. To me, that supports the thinking that they're doing free DLC instead of paid DLC for Dread because they want to keep the conversation going. They want Dread to continue to be pushed, but what they're gonna do at E3 is announce Metroid Prime remake, whatever it is. That new version of Metroid Prime we've been hearing about. That's when it's getting announced. I do think it's coming out this year. See it coming, I would say it's an October release. Then I think that's happening. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles comes out in September. October, Metroid Prime. I think Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in November. Because Legends Arceus is doing so well, I think that's going to be the Pokemon game for the holidays. I don't think they're going to come out with a new Pokemon game 10 months later. I think Legends Arceus is going to be the game. And then maybe they have DLC. But it's not going to be like Johto, Let's Go Johto, or Gen 9. I think Gen 9 is being saved. We haven't even had a Pokemon Presents announced yet. Granted, there's still time. There still could be a Pokemon Presents in February, right? Like, they could announce a Pokemon Presents this week, and then they announce, hey, Gen 9's coming out in November, see you then. Like, they could do
I
that.
hope not.
I don't think that's happening.
I don't want it. I don't want it. Give it another year to be developed. Like, this is the whole problem that people have been having with Pokemon for so long, is that they don't give them enough time to actually make enough changes. It's practically gotten to a point of like an EA Sports game where, because everything has to release on the year at the same time every year, they can't actually make big improvements to the game. So you get this stale game that they just keep rehashing, and that's what's happening with Pokemon. I was really excited to hear that they put the remake to another studio. That was very exciting to me. So now that they've freed up time, and of course they were working on Legends, but like, don't waste that extra time. Like, let Legends sit, let Legends sell.
I guess they're coming out
come
March.
out with a DLC, and just let Gen 9, like, give Gen 9 another year to be made. Like,
the thing is, I don't see them
Game Freak
waiting.
needs
I
the
don't see
time.
them waiting until November 2023 for Gen 9, or for, I should say, a new Pokemon game. I think we get something before then, so that's why I'm thinking Gen 9 comes out at the end of the fiscal year, March 2023.
I could see that. I would be okay with that.
Which gives them
I
what,
just-
4 to 5 more months of development, which
Yep.
is
A lot can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, as long as they just skip the usual November release, I think it would mostly be fine.
I
as
think
long
it
as
makes sense because we're gonna get a Zelda
Yeah.
this year, and Zelda had historically, excluding Breath of the Wild, 3D Zeldas come out in November. Like, I think this is the time to come back to that November release for Zelda. Especially because, to your point, Shifty, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out in September, and
Yeah.
while I think a lot of Xenoblade fans will agree they're also Zelda fans, right? They're both giant fantasy with some medieval-esque elements in their adventure games, right? So, like, there's some overlap. I think a 2-month buffer is good. 1 month, not as
Not
good.
enough.
Not as good, especially
It's
if
not enough.
especially because in October we're probably play Metroid Prime and maybe Bayonetta. I don't know. One of those two is coming out then, at least.
How am I supposed to finish Xenoblade Chronicles 3 before Zelda comes out? And then if you look at anything remotely close to Breath of the Wild for Breath of the Wild 2, how am I supposed to finish that in any amount of time to get back to Xenoblade? While I'm supposed to be playing Splatoon, while I'm supposed to be playing Final Fantasy, while I probably still have things to do because I've put Triangle Strategy on the back burner, like,
And we're still playing Switch Sports and Mario Strikers like twice a week.
and Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's not enough time. This year is ridiculous.
Like if they
Next year needs to be a year off. My God.
if they have Sunbreak release in, like, say, like August, right? That's just really bad timing. Like, it's gonna be right before Xenoblade, and then Xenoblade is just a long RPG that is gonna take you a while to complete and beat and, you know, get through the story and all that. If they put another game in October, whatever game that is, unless it's a game I'm extremely hyped for, I just don't see myself playing it. It's probably gonna.
I think Prime Remake makes sense for October. It's just, you know, it's like Dread, you know, comes out in October. It's kind of like the Halloween-y kind of game. Same thing for Bayonetta 3, by the way. I don't know if both come. I'll get it. I see some questions in the chat I'm going to get to in a moment about that stuff. I'll get to it. But, like, Metroid Prime Remake is not a long game, right? It's a 20-hour, 20-hour experience. So, like, you could play that for a couple weeks and go back to Xenoblade 3. You know? Like, I think they could fit that in there.
That'll prolong my playthrough of Xenoblade 3, though.
I can't. I will have Splatoon and Monster Hunter, Strikers,
True.
Triangle Strategy,
With,
Final Fantasy.
Maybe they
like,
do.
I don't have time for this.
It's a good problem to have, mind you. Like, it's not.
It's great. I'll tell you
Yeah.
right now. Prime Remake drops this year. I'm probably not getting it until closer to Prime 4. I just don't have the time to play it, especially with, like, all that. Plus, I have a job and a family.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. It's just not enough time for me.
if we didn't need to sleep, maybe you know, if
Maybe.
sleep wasn't a requirement
Maybe.
of all
Well,
of
then
us.
I'd grind more Splatoon and more Monster Hunter.
Hey, you know,
It's too much.
I don't know how to fit this year in.
It's weird because it's a good problem to have. Obviously, like
So good.
no one's complaining that we have too many.
I mean, I
games
think what's
to
going to
play.
happen is inevitably people are going to make decisions, right? And then in 2023, to your point, who was it? Who said that 2023 is probably going to be like a slower year? Was it?
I said it better be a slower year because I
Oh.
can't handle it being another year like
2023, we're going to go back to 2022 and play some of the games from there. Like, that's just what's going to happen. I mean, I did that in 2020, right? Like, in 2020, I played Luigi's Mansion, even though it came out the year before, you know?
this. This year is a perfect explanation for why Nintendo has a year off and a year on, because the next year needs to be a year off to get caught up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Otherwise, there's going to be games that I'm just not going to buy because I'm going to have to skip them, and then because I had to skip them, and then other things came out, they end up getting forgotten.
right. Yeah.
That's-
And it's not even like a Nintendo specific problem either. It's just a game industry issue where we just have too many games to play. Just Nintendo's doing really well in 2022 specifically that you even have that issue even if you only play Nintendo games.
Yeah, like it really is a kind of a me issue, or like to each and every person, because the issue is that we're interested in too many games.
Yeah. That's also our fault too. That is true. It's a little bit on us that we're interested in like everything they put out, or nearly everything they put out, because I'm pretty sure Nintendo isn't expecting all of their fans to buy all of their games, even though they would love that. You know?
Well, Switch hype, man. Like Switch has been selling like crazy, and this is why they keep putting out good games on a system that just works.
Right. Like from Nintendo's perspective, they might think
they've been
Switch
killing
Sports is just for like the casuals, and then all us core gamers are gonna play Advance Wars, all 1 million of us or something, right? And everyone's gonna play Switch Sports. But I'm been both. Like Switch Sports is to me hitting my nostalgia and also just looking awesome. Like
I don't know.
I might be more excited
for
for Switch Sports than I am for Advance Wars, which is kind of weird. But like,
it's one of those games where like I don't know. Like, I'm like, why should I get that? Like, back when I played Wii Sports, we're talking college, had people over every night. We played every single day. I don't think there was a single day that we didn't play Wii Sports for years.
Mm.
And it's like, am I going to do that again? I'm like, no. And then I'm like, wait a second, I have kids. So yeah, probably. There's a good chance I'm going to play a lot of that.
Honestly, when it comes to games like Nintendo Switch Sports and Mario Strikers, the number one thing every time I see a trailer for any of these kind of games, the number one thing I ask for is please have good online and make it online in general. Because if it didn't have online, I would have a really hard time justifying the purchase for me. Since most of the people I talk to are typically people over like Discord and that kind of thing. So I kind of need the online to be there.
Oh my god, good online. Could you imagine good online with like a collaboration stream on that? How chill and how good that could be?
with Switch Sports or Mario Strikers?
Or either, really.
Or
Both.
Advance Wars.
Yeah.
I think all those games. I think all those games are online.
Chill wise, like, Switch Sports would be like a super chill. I could see that being like, really popular.
Until you throw your controller at your screen and crack it live.
Yeah, because you weren't wearing the wrist strap, which by the way is on everything because of that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to that for a second. Do you
yes.
Do you remember that those lawsuits?
Yeah.
Where
I also remember Nintendo was giving us free straps.
You weren't wearing your strap, and one of them was no, the strap broke. I'm like, okay, so you hurled your controller hard enough at your TV that it broke the wrist strap and still had enough oomph to break your screen.
If anything, that's very impressive.
I am.
There is a failsafe for all of that. It's called your hand. You don't let go. Look, I got this. I got this. It's not happening. It's not happening.
For you to,
I know so many people.
Not happening.
Again, years, every day for years, and we used to be a big party house. So like, you know, I've seen hundreds of people play the game, and the amount of people that let go of the controller when they're bowling is phenomenal. How they can't release a finger, they just
Oh, you know what? You know what? Perhaps one of those things that I
but
take for
still,
granted
it's-
because I play sports, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
people who don't play sports and then they play Wii Sports. Maybe that's what it is. Because for me, I was like, how could you not? Like, but I guess again, like, you know, it's one of those things where like not everyone's me, right? So I don't understand it.
I don't know, because I don't play sports, like, period. I'm a very like inside kind of person, and I never had that issue personally. And I would also
But, like-
say, like, if you're like throwing your controller so hard that it like snaps the thing, like your strap off, flings it into the TV, and like shatters the television, you're a major league pitcher. Like, you're not just throwing a normal controller anymore.
No,
Thank
first of all,
you.
Major League pitcher knows when to hold the ball and when to let go. So,
He's just throwing it at like 90 miles per hour, and you
Well-
manage to shatter your whole television.
If I remember correctly, the Wii Sports Baseball, you didn't hold down the button, so there was no release. It was just the snap. So
Yeah.
that didn't require a timing thing. You just had to not open your hand whatsoever. And
The-
then for bowling, I get you're swinging it, so the odds are pretty good. If the strap snaps, there's going to be motion going. I should go towards your ceiling. And even that, like, how are you throwing the like? Are you trying to pitch the bowling ball down the alley? Like, what is going on with this?
I know at least with baseball, you could change like the kind of pitch you had based on like the buttons you were holding. I think you had to like hold A or B for like certain kinds of pitches or something. I'm not entirely
I
sure.
thought you could set it. I thought it would be like the D-pad. You would set what you were throwing and then you throw.
I think you have to hold a
can't
hold
remember.
a
It's
button.
been
I'm
a
not
while.
entirely sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's I haven't.
Either way, there is no letting go. There is no hurling at your TV hard enough to break your grip, break the strap, and break your television.
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen the Wii controller actually fall out of someone's hand, in my personal experience, was when we were playing the WarioWare they had on the Wii. I think it was
Yes.
and they had that
Drop it?
one. Yeah, that one mini game where you have to have the strap on and drop the controller, and they
Oh,
just
that was
didn't
so
have
good.
it on, and they just dropped the controller with no strap, and it just fell on the floor.
Have you
Um,
ever hit that while the strap was not on your hand and you were like, "Oh my god, how do I win this?" I did. I grabbed the strap and I grabbed the strap and I held it to my wrist and I let go so it would swing. 'Cause if it's just a straight drop, that's not what the controller is looking for. It's looking for the swing motion. So it's like you got to hold the strap there and you got to let it swing.
So let me just take a quick lapse from this discussion. We're gonna say,
Amazing game.
yeah. I want to read a few things in the chat here, and then we'll come back. So Taker610 provided a super chat again. Thank you very much, Taker. Would you guys like to see a Zelda made with the very realistic graphical style of Horizon, or Zelda better suited to a less cartoonish style? Well,
I think it works better with like an arts, like a unique art style kind of situation. I'm not sure. I wanna-
The problem with going with a realistic art style is no matter how good it looks today, it looks like trash in 10 years. And it happens every single time. No matter how photorealistic we think it looks now, it's not going to hold up in 10 years.
I think
Whereas-
Horizon, the original Horizon, looks good today.
Uh,
But I play on Nintendo Switch, so
I
But again, like when you're comparing it to realistic tends to not hold.
in
nearly
general,
as
I
well.
agree.
it
Now-
ages quicker.
Yeah, remakes look fantastic. But at the same time, a remake of Ocarina of Time could look amazing right now. There's not like, I feel like, would I want it? Yeah, I'd want it just to see it and just to have it. However, I don't think they could do it on the hardware they're working with, and I know that I would absolutely love anything stylized out of the Zelda team. So put that I know that I would love it. Plus, it's probably going to hold up longer on weaker software with less issues. Personally, I would rather have a massive scope open world Zelda game than I would have to have a cut down, more realistic looking version. Personally,
See,
To me-
I would.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
To me, the thing that makes a game look amazing is not like how realistic it is, but how realistic the lighting looks. And Breath of the Wild had some fantastic lighting that just looked amazing. And that does more for me in my enjoyment of the image of the game than having an attempt at hyper realism.
See, I would argue that for me, it's definitely more of a artistic design choice for me, where it's like I think I just prefer seeing Zelda in a more. I want to say like my art style wise, I think my favorite one is Breath of the Wild, right? But
I don't know. I just hear someone screaming in the background. I think it's hilarious.
Oh, what?
It's not coming from. I don't care. It's totally fine. It doesn't matter. It's just hilarious. That's all. I hope that everything's fine.
Oh my god.
Was that why you made that face too, Dumo?
Yeah, I was like, what is that? Like,
I don't.
It's totally fine. I don't. It does not bother me. I just think it's great. What were you saying?
What was I saying? I was saying, I think in terms of just visually, I prefer like seeing Zelda like in a more Breath of the Wild like art style. I like a combination of like, okay, realistic proportions, but not so much like realistic arts, like, you know, the textures and like the way the world looks. I think I just prefer it looking the way Breath of the Wild does. I think that's my favorite art style they've done. But I would also argue that like usually with the kind of person I am when it comes to playing a video game, it's rare that I come back to the game once I'm done with it. Now I can hear it. I think someone's just having a good time. I think that's what that sounds like to me. But yeah, like I typically don't go back to a game after I finish it. Like it's very rare that I do that.
I'm trying to pay attention to you. I'm trying.
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Zelda, realistic.
Yeah. It's rare. I'm going to try to make this quick. It's rare that I go back to a game after I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But so
yeah, I hear
a
you.
realistic game aging over time is not something that really bothers me personally. It's more so just how the game looks when I'm first like experiencing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I mean, for me, right, like Zelda, I want it to look just ridiculous. Like I remember the 2011 tech demo. That looks awesome. I would love it if a Zelda game were to look like that, but open world like Breath of the Wild. Like that would just be incredible. But that would be challenging for Switch technology, right? Maybe Switch 2 could pull something like that off. But even then, that's not realistic, right? That has its own sort of aesthetic. It's still a direction that's not hyper-realism. It's surreal, right? And I think surrealism is where Breath of the Wild shines. Where, and to your point, Dumo, where like you were saying, like there's like not a realistic game, but a game that has realistic elements, right? Like the lighting, the physics, things like that kind of make you, that draw you in and help to immerse you, make you feel like it's a real, believing, living, organic world. But it's not going for ultra photorealism, but surrealism, where it's a world that has semblances of reality, but it's a fantastical world that looks different than anything else you've seen before. And it draws you in with its lighting, its colors, its character, its personality. And it doesn't have to be cell shaded, right? Like, so that's not what I'm getting. I'm not saying that like I don't want every game to be cell shaded, right? Like Wind Waker. I would love it if they were to try a different style after Breath of the Wild 2, for sure. And maybe it's a little bit more on the realistic side to a degree, but I do ultimately agree that, you know, going pure photorealistic, it's not going to age well, to your point. And especially because Nintendo always is always using hardware that's more on the limited side of things. When you're going for photorealism, you lose a lot. Like there's you can get a lot more bang for your buck when you go for things that don't have to be photorealistic. So you don't have to have like you can go for more simpler textures, right? Or not necessarily like the most advanced like geometry, because you can get away with it because you're not trying to make it look real, right? So that allows you to do more with what you got from a gameplay perspective, from a world perspective. So yeah, I think surrealism is where Zelda should be. Not really.
Now, one they could probably go back to is a Twilight Princess sort of look.
Right, which
Bring
is
bring
kind of like
that up to
the 2011 tech demo, but with more modern technology, which would look amazing.
So so it depends on what you're saying, like more realistic. If you're saying more realistic as like a modern in the art style of Twilight Princess, then yeah, that would be amazing. If you're saying more realistic as in an attempt at photorealism, the answer is I would rather not, personally. I wouldn't say no, but
Yeah.
I would rather not. And to me, I feel like Breath of the Wild is probably the art style that I like the most, but I'm also a big fan of like Studio Ghibli, so it sort of all lines up there.
Yeah.
So
It would also be pretty difficult to make a photorealistic Zelda game with the hardware that Nintendo typically releases at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
It would have aged on release day.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. But let me continue on the chat here. People are talking about Mario Kart Tour. Kitano Tatsu, I feel it's not that people think Tour is bad. I think they see using Tour tracks as being lazy. I'm just wondering how much work bringing over Tour tracks actually takes. I mean, they're getting remade. They have to be redone, restructured to actually be Mario Kart 8 gameplay.
Yeah, that, and aren't they? Tour runs on a completely different engine than Mario Kart typically would also, so they would have to like. Yeah, they would have to like completely redo those stages, not just for the gameplay for Mario Kart, but also because the engine just would. I don't believe you can just like copy and paste it onto like the other engine.
I don't think any of them are actually getting copy pasted in. I think all of them are being rebuilt within the engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I will say that I do agree from what we've seen so far. The tracks definitely look like they're not. They are not as detailed as the base tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They are not. The textures are all very simple. It's not ugly. Like none of the tracks I've seen for the DLC are ugly. No, they look like Mario Kart. They look fine. But there's a discernible difference between the base game tracks and the new tracks. Like it just seems like the textures are just a lot more simpler. It's not like pseudo realistic Mario Kart 8 stuff. Like it's all like very clean, basic sort of like looking stuff.
Yeah, I mean they seem serviceable to me. I didn't, when I first saw them, I didn't think that these look ugly or for any reason.
No, I just saw Mario Kart tracks. Like that, I didn't even think about graphics. I just saw Mario Kart tracks. But I do like it when they look pretty. Right, like one of the cool things with Mario Kart 8 is that it is a spectacle. Right, you go to Mumu. Is it Mumu Films, Mumu Farms, Mumu Fields? The Mumu track.
The cow one. The
cow one. It looks amazing, and that's from 2014. It still looks amazing. That track looks better than anything I've seen in the Mario Kart DLC, right? Like, I want things to I would love it if they could do that again. They, in theory, should be, but I think it's clear that this is not being made by the main EPD team that made Mario Kart 8. This is being made outsourced by someone smaller to just do this, to hold this over in the meanwhile. Like, that's how it feels. Granted, the tracks haven't come out yet. Well, once we actually see them and play them, that's when we can appropriately judge. But I bet that they're still going to be fun, and it's still going to be worth it.
I'm definitely still going to have fun.
How pretty does it really have to be, and how close to the original does it really have to be when you're going through the track at 200cc?
I mean, at that point, everything's just a blur. I'm not noticing anything.
No,
I mean,
see
you want them to look good, but at the same time, like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna have a big fit over them not looking as perfect as other tracks when realistically I'm not looking at the track, I'm just trying to win a race.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fine perspective, right? But you could also make the argument, right, that like, hey, these tracks are from 2014. We're on hardware that's more powerful, and it's 2022. Why do they look worse? I think that's a valid criticism. Now, is it enough of a criticism for me not to not be interested? No, but it's not a deal breaker. Is my point.
I won't for a second say that that's not valid. I think that is valid. It is not a concern for me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not enough to maybe not to make me uninterested, but it is clear that they are lesser in visual fidelity. But again,
It's
maybe
at
they're
this
enhanced a bit by the time they come out, or maybe it's just the style of those particular tracks. And as we get more tracks, they will look different. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's just an understandable take. Like, it's not something that bothers me at all, but I couldn't understand why some people would have an issue with it. One thing I was surprised by was how some people felt that the I forgot what they call it, the booster course pack, that they felt that it was a little overpriced at $25, which was interesting that I saw that, because I thought I had the like complete opposite reaction to it. I thought it was like really cheap. In fact, I remember at one point, Andres, I was on this podcast before, and I had mentioned the idea that every year they can release some kind of DLC content for Nintendo Switch Online.
Right.
That would be around $25 to $30 to make up for that difference.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that. Like, it's $25.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know where that came from, but I just wanted to point out how ridiculous that sounded to me.
Now, I did have one person in my VC that had I don't know what happened, but they understood it wrong, where they thought that you, because of the way they
25
presented it, they thought that you,
per pack.
Well, no, they thought that you needed the enhanced Switch Online, the more expensive Switch Online, plus the 25, and he was like, so they're doing that to push the enhanced? Like, that's ridiculous. And I was like, no. once that was cleared, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's reasonably priced.
Maybe that's where it's coming from. Like, maybe it is just people
Confusion.
misunderstanding the messaging of the trailer.
And I think oftentimes people, if they don't understand the specifics, they're gonna assume the more expensive perspective, and because
and I'm okay with that, because I would rather that than have them be like
disappointed,
afterward, like find out and be like, oh, that's not so bad, than to try to go and buy it and find out that it's absurdly priced and then just like freak out over it, because we don't need more of that.
From that perspective, I guess it's better to be relieved, be surprised in a happy way than be disappointed.
Now, ideally, Nintendo just like really nails the marketing, and there are no questions.
I think one thing that when I saw it, I was like, oh, $25. And when I saw it for the first time, there was a moment where I was like, $25 per pack or for the whole thing? Like, it only took a moment for me, like, nah, it's got to be the whole thing, right? But I'm sure there were some people who were like, oh, $25 per pack, that seems like a lot. They should have had maybe they even said it, I just missed it, but like they should be like, hey, for $25 total, you get every single track that'll be coming out between now and the end of 2023, which will include 6 packs, which will have 2 Grand Prix each, 4 tracks totaling out to 48 tracks for the small price of $24.99, or you get it all for 100% free if you're paying for Nintendo Online's expansion pack. Like,
I think at one point in time they had the $25 on screen at the same time as 48 tracks. But
now that should be like, hey, $25, 48. Like, what they did that where, hey, $24.99 equal 48 tracks.
Yeah. The thing is, it's on screen, so it's clear enough, and it is definitely clear when you stop and look at it. But in the meantime, when you're already freaking out about things and like stuff's flying by so quick, you're thinking about stuff that just happened, you're thinking about what's coming next, you have this flying in front of you. I can see people missing stuff. Like, it's going to happen.
A lot going on.
So
yeah,
it just means that they have to be very clear about things afterwards when people start looking into it a little more.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna continue on the chat here unless there's anything in particular you guys want to speak on. We're on the Mario Kart DLC.
I think it looks like a great deal.
You think we're getting 3 packs this year?
Hmm?
You think we're getting 3 packs this year by the end of the year?
No idea, to be honest. Especially with like development time's a big mess right now. Has been for 2 years.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. I do agree with you, Shifty, that we're gonna be getting DLC stuff. Like, this was confirmation, right? Like, when we got the Mario Kart DLC thing, it showed that Nintendo wasn't intending just for the Animal Crossing thing to be a band-aid for the situation. It's like, no, this is our plan. We're going to continue to give you guys DLC packs. I see that now, and maybe it's only Animal Crossing and Mario Kart forever, but I'm going to say it's not. Like, it makes me actually wonder, maybe a year or so from now, maybe 2 years from now, like, hey, we're going to add more Smash characters. they could do that. It doesn't have to be like, it could be another Fires Pass. Get Fires Pass Volume 3 for like, or like, yeah, if they have a Splatoon 3 expansion or Breath of the Wild 2 DLC, or Metroid Prime 4 DLC when that happens.
Yeah,
heck, they can do Legends Arceus. If Legends Arceus continues to sell, right, it's good. The thing is, they pick the 2 best-selling games on Switch to do the DLC for. Why? Because those have the most impact and reach to benefit the most amount of Switch owners to get them to feel more compelled to actually have expansion pack. Thus, maximizing sales potential there, right? Or membership potential there.
Like,
so
I have no interest in it right now, but if all of a sudden all the games I'm playing have DLC that's going to be free, suddenly it's not a bad deal.
It'd be nuts, right? If they do that, right? And so they're like thinking, okay, what are the next 2 best-selling Switch games? Breath of the Wild and Smash Brothers. So for Smash Brothers, you add another Fires Pass. What do you do for Breath of the Wild? Make Breath of the Wild 2 a DLC. When I say Breath of the Wild 2 DLC, I don't mean DLC for Breath of the Wild 2. I mean make Breath of the Wild 2 DLC for Breath of the Wild 1.
You know what you do? You add a new story content in the first game that ties into the beginning of the second game.
And they'll announce that when they delay Breath of the Wild 2 till next year.
Oh, no.
I don't think I want that DLC anymore. If that's the case.
As much as that would hurt me, that would actually fix some of the issues I have with not enough time.
Yeah,
I think I could free up enough time for next year, especially if next year doesn't have much at all.
Yeah,
that would actually be kind of helpful.
Just to be clear, I don't expect there to ever be any DLC for Breath of the Wild anymore. I think that's done.
No.
That's long gone.
Yeah, but Smash Brothers though, I think that's a hard maybe.
I could see.
I don't want to give myself hope for that, so I'm just going to ignore what you just said.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen this year. I don't even necessarily expect it for next year. But if Nintendo's gonna continue to have, DLC things to increase the value of expansion of the Nintendo's Online expansion pack, they can't just leave it at Animal Crossing and Mario Kart. They have to announce at least 2 every year, at least 2. I don't think they can just leave those 2 and that's it. No, they have to continue to do it.
Every year, it's always been some kind of expansion that costs around $25. I think it was $25 for both the Animal Crossing and the Mario Kart thing. Mm-hmm. So, if it was a Smash-related thing or any other game, it would have to be some kind of large enough amount of DLC to make that cost worth it.
Yeah, and also has to be a game that's gonna sell a lot, right? I don't think it'd be like a Fire Emblem or a Xenoblade that'll sell maybe 2 to 3 million, which is not bad sales, but we're talking about trying to appeal to the many people who have a Nintendo Switch, right? You need maybe larger numbers. That's why Smash is a prime candidate. Maybe Luigi's Mansion 3. Pokemon comes to mind. If Legends Arceus has DLC, maybe in September they announce Legends Arceus DLC and hey, you can get this for free if you have Nintendo Online expansion pack. The problem with that is a Pokemon company hey, no, we want our money, right? So that's where it might get a little messy there. But something to that end, they could. Yeah. They wanted to.
I would just imagine if it was a Smash related thing, it would be more than what we. Because I don't remember how much the other Fighters passes were, but they were not $25.
$30 for the whole thing.
What do you mean,
$30?
Were they cost $30?
I could look it up now.
$30. It's $30 for the full pass, was it not?
I don't remember. If that's the case, then that actually would fit perfectly.
Well, I went to Best Buy. Apparently, you can get Fires Pass Volume 2 for $25.
That's actually the exact amount. That was
this is showing a picture for Fires Pass Volume 1, so I'm very confused. But it's in there. Know what they're doing. Either way, it's in there. It's that Volume 2 is $30 on Best Buy. $25 for Fires Pass Volume 1. Granted, Fires Pass Volume 1 has 5 characters. Fires Pass Volume 2 has 6. 7 if you count Pyre Mythras 2.
So actually, that actually would fit in line with the number I was thinking of, the $25 to $30 range for these expansions.
So Best Buy wasn't actually wrong. I'm on the Smash Bros website we're talking about US dollars. Fire Pass Volume 1 is $25, Volume 2 is $30. I don't think, but the thing is, they added an additional character, right? I think the expectation would be 5 characters for $25, which, to your point, would match up with the other DLC packs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would make sense. The only thing, like, stopping that from happening is obviously like when everyone knows about Sakurai being done with the game and it's
right.
completed and all
well,
that.
Maybe they outsource it like they're outsourcing the Mario Kart DLC, and it's like, oh, these characters are kind of dumb, but we're still gonna buy it anyway.
The question is though, how many people actually, like, percentage-wise for Smash, how many of them actually know about Sakurai? Like, yes,
well,
your hardcore gamers are going to know it, are going to know Sakurai, but like realistically, the percentage of people that actually know about the developers, know anything about studios or anything like that is so ridiculously low.
Volume
like,
3 is totally happening.
The only way people would really pick up on that stuff is if they're watching YouTubers complaining about, well, Sakurai had nothing to do with this, so don't get it. That's pretty much where.
This is going to be a video, by the way. I'm totally going to talk about how Volume 3 has hope. Like, I'm totally going to do it. It makes sense. Like, I actually think this is a legitimate chance this is going to happen.
I mean, more sales for Smash, more sales for online stuff.
I mean, you look at
more money just because of a DLC. I mean, yeah.
The thing is,
potential.
If Mario Kart 8 Deluxe can get DLC 5 years after its release, then why can't Smash?
How many years after the original Mario Kart 8?
Like, right, exactly. Like,
that's you want to talk evergreen?
Yeah. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, after Mario Kart Animal Crossing, the next logical leap is Smash Brothers, right? So, not saying it's happening immediately, but if Nintendo needs to keep coming out with DLC packs, what makes sense? So,
I mean, what makes sense is Splatoon, but it'll be too early for Splatoon, which is why Smash actually has a chance.
Yeah, the other caveat to this is that when do we get the next generation system? And when that next generation system comes, do the games all cross over, right? Like, is it going to be more like a Game Boy to Game Boy Color thing where Switch games, it's like forwards and backwards compatible, but eventually, like, they start to slowly bring in exclusive Switch 2 games, but most of the games that come out are on both systems. So that's, I don't know. I'm just checking with a couple of chats here. We'll kind of continue the discussion. Although if we follow the chat, I'm sure we could tangent again. That's just gonna happen.
It's what we do.
Yeah, it is what we do. It is what we do. All right, I already got to take your super chat about the realistic Zelda stuff. I saw Kitano's point about Mario Kart Tour stuff. Yeah, I see people were talking about Mario Kart Tour here.
That's where we started to get to this.
Yeah. Rel added me. NSO expansion pack is looking like quite the value. I hope they add more expansions. Right? I mean, that's what we've been talking about. Like, I want more.
They said it really early on, and it was something that I was worried about, and we discussed on the podcast before. During one of the early investor meetings, they mentioned that the realization that NSO subscriptions spiked with games that needed it, and that they were going to continue pushing that. So basically, rather than, and the whole thing was like, we wanted NSO to be better, and they're like, well, instead of making it better, we're just going to make more games that need it. And they've continued to do that, and that's what they're doing now with this pack, is they're making, except this one here, like for the expansion pack, they're actually making, they're putting value into it rather than just making it a paywall for more games.
Right.
So that I prefer.
And
that
the thing is, people who don't want it, they
paywall.
still can get the DLC like normal.
Yep.
Right. Because $25
Yep.
is a good deal for Mario Kart 8 deal. Like, that's a good deal. Right.
Yep.
But what's a better deal? Having it for free. But so
Better deal is getting 2 of those for free.
Yeah.
Saving $50 on
Right.
those.
It's a shame I don't care for Animal Crossing, but I could take advantage of it because I do have it. So. Yeah.
My kids would love it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I got it for the N64 stuff, right? And that's fine. For me, it's fine. And they're coming out with the game almost every month. So I actually think they're starting to do a good job with expansion pack. Don't shoot me.
Hey, you said starting. That's okay. They're starting.
Yeah, I said
Let's
starting.
see,
I
let's
did
see
say
where
that.
it goes.
I said
See where it goes.
don't unsubscribe yet, please. Actually, I think I hear like people screaming outside and pitchforks and torches.
Oh, we'll just say
that
that's
might
what the
be it.
screaming was earlier then.
Yeah, it was a warning call, or a war cry. Yeah, but I hope they continue this because I like what they're doing. You know, what's next? I mean, what if we do get GoldenEye on the expansion pack like that? There's things that Nintendo can do that we want, right? They can impress us. And you know what? The Dumo, I actually do think that Splatoon 3 DLC, when that comes, like if they do like an Octo expansion thing, like yeah, that should absolutely be free on expansion pack.
Yeah,
I would be blown away if they don't.
Yeah.
I'd be blown away if they don't do DLC. I'd be blown away if it doesn't end up on the expansion pass.
Right. Yeah. I can see Breath of the Wild 2 getting DLC actually in the expansion pack too. Like it's gonna be for the games that we know are gonna sell like 10 plus million.
Not even. Xenoblade had.
Excuse me.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had
I can't.
good DLC pack.
I don't know. I'm sneezing out like crazy. What?
But
Something about Xenoblade 2?
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had a good DLC pack. How much was that one? Was that not 25?
Yeah, I just think that for certain games, it's not significant enough.
But the thing is, it's not about it being significant enough that one game gets people to buy in. It's that the constant flow of games gets people to buy in. Like because if I'm looking at okay, well, Splatoon's gonna get it. I want Splatoons. Okay, well, what else do you got this year? Oh, nothing I care about. Don't care. So the more games they add to it, the more it hits multiple people. The more people hit multiple games, which is what adds up the value, which is what makes them want to do it. It's just like
they're kind of turning it into, right? If they continue to, they're kind of turning into hardcore Nintendo fan premium membership, right?
Yeah.
Because like, who's going to be buying all these games to take advantage of the DLC? The hardcore Nintendo fan is buying a lot more games, right?
And
right now, Animal Crossing and Mario Kart, almost
time.
Everyone has, right? But over time, to your point, if they continue to do that, if they just make it a situation where like, hey, there's in general, you're just gonna, if you have a Nintendo game, it DLC pack is gonna be free on here, like that. Might be
it's one of those things where when people buy it and it's like, oh, I need NSO. It's like, yeah, you need NSO, and you don't really need the expansion pass, but you should probably get it. And it's going to be recommended to everyone because the expansion pass is just going to be a great deal. It's like, if you have more than 2 games that are not indie games,
heck,
you're gonna want the expansion.
I got
pass.
one for you. You know what could be free? What would be a good candidate for like a free DLC on the expansion pack? Nintendo Switch Sports, because I think of all the casual Nintendo games, that's the one that I actually could see selling like millions, right? So say a year from now, next February Nintendo Direct, we're like, oh man, that Mario Golf for free was great. What's next? You're gonna get jet skis and pilot wings for free deals for free with the expansion pack, or you pay $25 next year for Nintendo Switch Sports DLC. Like, I see that happening. That makes sense.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the most likely candidates to get any kind of expansion has to be one, like you said, Andres, like games that sell well, but also games that are online in the first place. Because I think there's going to be a lot of
good point. So things maybe that counts out Zelda, unless it's co-op.
Oh,
but Zelda already gets those kind of things, and it's a huge seller.
Yeah, I just feel like there's definitely going to be, they definitely want people to recommend other, like their friends and family to get like, hey man, you should get Mario Kart, and they have this cool like 48 tracks you can get extra if you like sign up with this membership service. So I think they're kind of hoping that those kind of conversations happen, where you have that friend that has not picked up, maybe the one person who doesn't own Mario Kart on the Switch, and they buy it, and then they say like, oh, this game's pretty fun, but hey, look, there's like this expansion that you can get that has 48 new tracks, and we can play that together too. I think they're hoping that conversation happens that convinces more people to buy it so they can play with their friends also. Not just, because they could technically do it for single player content games like Zelda, like Xenoblade, but I think it makes more sense if it's multiplayer focused, which is why I do think Splatoon and Nintendo Switch Sports makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do it for either because they're going to do DLC for the single player games anyways, especially if they sell even remotely close to well.
Right.
If they break 1 million, they're doing DLC for.
I mean, first of all, I think
for
the Chronicles
Xenoblade
3 might be multiplayer. I don't know. That's just a dumb theory.
I doubt it,
dumb
but
theory.
sure.
It's a dumb theory.
I also doubt it, but I wouldn't be
Let's
against
team
it.
up.
It's a dumb theory
But
that
you know, like,
I might be right about, but probably
but you
not.
know, they're going to sell those DLC. They're going to sell them in large amounts. Breath of the Wild 2, when it comes, is going to sell very, very well. The DLC is going to sell very well. So DLC makes sense for that. A single player game that isn't going to sell as well, does it really? And then that's what makes something like Splatoon so important, because it is going to be a newer game, it is going to be a multiplayer, and it is going to hit those sales numbers.
Right.
So that's a huge one. Like that I would be blown away if they don't use Splatoon like that.
I would say
Like,
Splatoon
it's a
3,
missed
Nintendo Switch Sports,
opportunity.
and Smash Brothers are the top candidates to have DLC that are for free on expansion pack.
I
And
definitely say
possibly Strikers.
Splatoon. Splatoon's like the number one
Yeah,
thing in my mind.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense. Because
I would even say Monster Hunter, but because it's Capcom, probably not.
I wouldn't, because Capcom's going to do their own
Right.
event quests, and the big DLC is a full price game, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
It's their
If
it's their
Nintendo
strategy that they go
developed
with,
Monster
so.
Hunter Rise, I'd be like, yes, but because it's Capcom, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be. I feel like it's just definitely going to be focused on the multiplayer aspect. To go into what you mentioned earlier, Dumo, with having the games needing the service, so that way it kind of like justifies the service in a way and like legitimizes it for everyone who owns a Switch. So by doing that, you kind of put more value into that service by making people feel like, hey, I can, just get this service and simplify the whole process for myself.
Yeah. Like the whole thing, like now with this here and them adding value to that, the conversation shifted from NSO as a paywall for me to play Splatoon or Smash, and it's more into, well, how much value does this expansion pass have? And it's a very good conversation. That's the conversation Nintendo wants us having.
Yeah,
Talk about this good value rather than this paywall.
Like,
The
I don't
paywall's
wanna...
still there. It's still a like the paywall is still as nasty as it was to begin with, but that's not the conversation right now, and so that bodes very well for Nintendo.
Yeah, you want to make your customer feel like they don't have to buy it, but they want to buy it, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I mean,
it's that-
it becomes compelling. You're like, oh man, Animal Crossing DLC for free, Mario Kart DLC for free. Oh, Smash Bros DLC for free, Splatoon 3 DLC for free. Wait, GoldenEye just came out on this? Wait, I can play Majora's Mask and Banjo-Kazooie on this? Oh wait, Echo the Dolphin's on here too? And I can play Mario Kart 64 multiplayer? Oh wait, GoldenEye's multiplayer too? It becomes compelling, right? Over time.
very.
Over time. Especially if they continue to fix the graphical issues of the emulator. Which they have been doing. They've been fixing it.
Well, it's good to hear that they've actually been doing something with it, because I don't think they did anything with the NES emulator, and that thing was not fun.
Yeah. So continue on the chat here. Bro, did you guys do the 3DS Wii U memories? I saw that. I haven't had a chance to do it. Like, right now, and things are gonna get a little easier after some time passes. Things are gonna get a little easier for me. I'm actually expecting this week to be slightly easier than this week that just passed, but slightly. Actually, no, take that back. Not. But eventually, things are gonna get slightly easier. Well, I'll be able to play a little bit more, do a little bit more. Like I said earlier, I barely play Legends Arceus. I've maybe put in like 3-ish hours, 4 hours in the not even like 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours in the last week. That's all gaming I've done. That's gonna, again, I'll have more time soon, but lately it's just no. Yeah. I'm assuming you guys didn't do the Wii U 3DS memories thing.
I actually did do that on my end.
You did?
Yeah. Like I posted it on Twitter like I want to say like a couple of days ago or so.
Okay.
Not unsurprisingly, like in both 3DS and Wii U, my top played game was Smash. By a sizable margin.
Can I do that right now? Is it just linked to my Nintendo account and then it just tells me?
Yeah, I don't think it takes too long. You just typically press a button that says like, "Oh, what's my memories?" and then
where do I go?
Like, loads up.
Wii U memories.
Yeah, just Google that. I'm sure it'll pop up.
Wii U memories. Here we go. And then my Nintendo 3DS Wii U memories. Let's see.
I didn't even have a Wii U.
Oh.
Cookies.
Well, you're part of the majority, so that's okay.
Get started.
Yes. Finally.
Sign in. I have to remember my Nintendo account. Hopefully this is right. It's probably wrong. Whatever.
On my end, it said I technically. What was surprising to me is the idea that I had more playtime on my Wii U than I did my 3DS.
So my Nintendo account's not linked on my 3DS. You guys are not gonna like what my most played on my Wii U is.
Oh no! What is it? Netflix or YouTube or something like that? Yeah, I knew it.
Yo, it's terrible. It's really
By how
bad.
many hours?
Oh no, I don't even want to say. Oh, it's so bad. All right, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
Number 1 is Netflix at 1,594 hours. No,
Nice.
it gets worse. Number 2, you guys are unfriend me.
Is this YouTube now? What is this?
No, it's worse.
Crunchyroll.
Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
Wow! I did not take you for a call.
No. I'm gonna explain. Hold on.
that.
I'm gonna explain all of. I'm going to explain literally
He has
all
to
of this.
explain this.
I'm going to explain all of this.
Chat will burn you for this.
I'm going to explain all of it.
He went on
500
holiday for 6 months and just left it on the start screen. That's going to be the excuse.
It's at 506 hours. I don't. That's bewildering, to be totally frank with you. And then Crunchyroll is at 462 and the third most played. Okay. All right. So let me explain. First off, when I had my Wii U, that was my streaming device. So that's what I used to watch Netflix and Crunchyroll, right? So I mean, there you go, right? And watching stuff, I binge watch a lot of stuff. But also, think of it like this, okay? If I play a game, I'm gonna beat that game 20, 30, 40, 60 hours, and I'm gonna move on to another game, right? If I'm watching anime, maybe I'll watch it 20, 30, 40, 60 hours. But if I go and watch another anime, it's still gonna be on Crunchyroll, right? So like, it's not like if you account for every game I played on my Wii U, it's way more, right? And actually, I'll prove it to you. My total playtime on my Wii U is 4,401 hours. Total titles played, 62. So the top 3 do not account for almost half, but still not half of my Wii U playtime, right? So more than half of my Wii U playtime went to actual games. But, you know, I still watched anime and Netflix on my Wii U, right? Back in like 2012 and 2013.
That doesn't explain the Call of Duty.
I'm getting there! Okay? Did I appropriately explain why the Crunchyroll and Netflix are so high? Because I will watch stuff.
Yeah, no.
But
That's
the games
that's fine.
are all separate, so they don't get to as high of an hour count. But if we're just talking about individual programs, individual animes and shows and movies, then obviously those hours are way less than my games. Call of Duty, I mean, I'm gonna be totally frank with you. I did play it a fair bit. I did not play it that much. I let someone borrow I was in college. My friends liked playing Call of Duty, so when I was gone, they would just play Call of Duty on my Wii U. So I didn't get to 500 by myself. I did actually like Black Ops 2 on my Wii U, but I did not play it that much.
Okay.
There's no way I could get to 500 hours by myself. Yeah. Like I literally just left my Wii in the living room, and people would just like play Call of Duty all day and Smash. So.
Okay. Well, you know, Call of Duty ain't that bad. You know, it's a decent franchise and better in some games. You know, so it's all right.
Not the end of the world.
Yeah, we're not judging you.
I mean,
you can't tell me how much hours I put in Mario Kart.
You had to have made up for it since then.
Oh no!
Come on.
Oh no! It's just showing all my games Mario Kart 8, Smash, Pokken, Metroid Prime Trilogy, 3D World, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Splatoon, Majora's Mask. I played a lot of eShop games, Mario Maker, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Yeah, those are some of my most played on the Wii U.
Yeah, mine was just Smash 4. It's the top played game. And it was with like 800 and something hours.
Wait, what game?
Smash 4? Like Smash 4 Wii U?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Smash 4 is pretty dope. I got a super chat here from KillaBK123. I know this guy. Sup, man? Thank you very much. Thank you for the good wishes. I miss you too. We should hang out sometime. But let's see here. I got some ats. Elias disagrees with my DLC theory, which is totally fine. You're welcome to disagree. They won't put Smash DLC. It has too much licensing and third parties involved to put that in. License holders probably get a nice C2 from sold DLC. Well, it could just be first party characters, and then what's to stop that then just is fine. Like, Nintendo can add Nintendo characters to Smash Ultimate. I don't think there's anything holding them back. But to your point, maybe we don't see third-party characters, right? Similar to when we look at Mario Kart 8 DLC, it's not even involving different Nintendo universes. It's just remade tracks, right? So maybe that DLC isn't quite to the same spectacle or scale as Volumes 1 and 2, right? It's just like some Nintendo characters that are semi-relevant now. So, you know, maybe, you know, there is a little bit of a downgrade with the third Fighters Pass, but it'll still be new characters. So, you know, with the stage, like, I think that's still conceivable, but I think you might be right. Maybe it's not like big third party characters. Like, there will be no Master Chief or Doom guy.
At the same time, people were trying to say stuff like that about Games Pass, where it's like, how do you even put third party on there? How do you split up the money? If they want to make a deal, they'll make a deal. So, like, it is possible. It's not like they can't do it, and it's not like, oh, they're gonna take like half your revenue from the pass, like from here on out, kind of thing. It's just, it might not be an awful lot of money, but at the same time, it is advertising for your game on a fairly big stage, and it is a way to get people to learn about your game and fall in love with one of your characters before you release a new game. So it's not like if they're not giving them a ton of money that it can't be done. They can also pay money up front for the licensing of the character. It might cost them more, but you know, there is possibilities. If they want to make a deal, they can make a deal. It's not like they can't do it, but at the same time, it's not like Nintendo doesn't have a lot of characters sitting on the back burner that they can bring forward.
Yeah. They could also, if they want to generate hype while also still using characters they own, if they pay enough attention to the internet, they can easily just go into the characters that people have been speculating on for years. Maybe like
True.
or Isaac or Gino or something. I don't know.
What's stopping them from bringing out that big salmonoid thing we see at the end of the Splatoon 3 trailer?
That'd be cool.
You know, like
It feels more like a boss, but you know.
But again, like they can do that. They can use things from games that are coming, and bring characters forward. They can do, like, if they want to use it as a way to build hype and advertise, they can do that. If they want to make deals with other people, they can do that. If they want to use that to bring back an old game, they can do that too. Like, they have so many options. So to say that like this fighter pass can't happen, I don't think is correct. Personally, I think it is. I think it's possible. Whether or not it will happen, who knows? I think it would be smart to have happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to commit to saying that, oh yes, it's happening.
Right, and to argue for the side of it not happening, right? Like, while Mario Kart 8 DLC, like, you could say, oh, because it happened for Mario Kart 8, it could happen for Smash Brothers, and that is why I'm suggesting it. But Mario Kart 8 is also going to end up selling like 60 million copies by the end of the Switch's life cycle, at least, right? So 60 million versus maybe Smash hits 30, like, there is a big difference there. Granted, 30 is still pretty good, and I'm assuming Smash gets like another 5 million. It may not, but it might, right? It may if they add free DLC. Just saying, but you know,
sales,
right? It's it is, Mario Kart is a unique situation. So, you know, that being is, it's not enough evidence to say, yeah, for sure, Smash is happening, but I still do think it's possible. So, we'll see. We will see. Guy don't know. Added me. I just had a crazy thought. If Prime 4 has multiplayer mode, Nintendo can make the multiplayer mode free with the expansion pass, similar to how Halo's Infinite multiplayer is free.
He's thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So,
get there.
Because the thing is that question, it's a very, very interesting point. Just to say, like, but it has implications. One, it means Metroid Prime 4 has multiplayer, right? And that it had development effort focused on multiplayer, not single player, which is a whole other conversation, right? But also, if they were to do it, would it be, because for example, with Halo Infinite, it's basically 2 different games. That's what it is. Like, it's like the campaign and there's the multiplayer. So if basically Nintendo and Retro Studios are developing basically 2 games, and they're being this ambitious about it, then in that case, maybe you're right. But then they would basically have to be, are you saying the multiplayer would be DLC that you have to pay for? Or is it like a thing where it's just, they release it as 2 separate products? Right, because then you're talking about Metroid Prime 4 being 2 separate products. Because expansion pack isn't exactly Game Pass. Like, it is, there is a little bit of a difference there, right? Like, basically, we're talking about segmenting Metroid Prime 4, which is how Halo is, but it works because of how widespread Game Pass is. I don't know if they could do the same thing. Like, I don't know. Say they release Metroid Prime 4, and it's an amazing single-player campaign, and they announce paid DLC, but the paid DLC isn't like an additional quest, it's like multiplayer. Like, that would be weird, right? Like, for example, like for Zelda, like it would be, imagine like for Zelda, for Breath of the Wild 2, they announce a paid DLC pack, but instead of it being like additional dungeons to do with a little extra story, it's, here's multiplayer. You know? So it's a little strange. But I'll also say, I don't know exactly how, I'm not saying it's impossible either. That's where I'm kind of like,
so you're trying to wrap your head around it.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
If they were going to do it, in my opinion, if they were going to do something like that, I would say they would probably do it with Salmon Run.
But Salmon Run, we already know is in the game, so
yeah. So
you know,
since they didn't do it with Salmon Run, that's the one that makes more sense to me. So I would not really expect it for basically anything else.
Yeah. Now, let's say Metroid Prime 4 has multiplayer, which I'm not necessarily expecting. It might. I don't know. It's a toss-up. If it has multiplayer and they want to have iterative DLC upgrades for that to kind of push it as like an online experience, kind of like Splatoon, then I would say yes, that'll be free on expansion pack. But I don't. We don't really understand entirely what the direction of Metroid Prime 4 is. I think what's probably the fairest bet is to assume Metroid Prime 4 will be like a modern day Metroid Prime, where it's basically going to be like one epic sort of first-person adventure. And if they do anything beyond that, that's where it's up for debate.
Another one I could see that I would really like to see come back with a multiplayer added in would be Star Fox. And I think a multiplayer Star Fox with an entire like multiplayer mode would be really interesting to see happen.
You know what would be interesting? If they had an online only game. Say with Star Fox, like an online only Star Fox, right? Like so it's designed where you can have multiplayer dogfights, but all right, hear me out here, all right? So you know how when you play Star Fox, right? It's like when you do the campaign, it's a short campaign, but it has like different potential endings or paths that you can do. So there's a lot of replayability there, right? But what happens is almost like simulating like a war that's going on, because you go from one point to another. And actually in Star Fox 2, that's literally what it is. There's a war going on, you have to manage the map as you progress through, right? And they even kind of did this in Starlink as well, where there's like almost like a war going, you have to manage different points. So imagine that if the future for Star Fox is this experience, but fully like online. So basically, you pick a team right, or a side, and there's an actual map with different areas, different planets, different sections, and there's different words going, and you pick a path, and you're trying to sort of influence that battle. But it's all online based, right? So you're competing against other people. And that includes dogfights and things of that nature. There's still like aliens you fight in the, you know, the on-rail sections as well. It's still all there, but it's like a multiplayer sort of thing where you're picking your paths, influence the larger, grander scale battle, and it's an online only game. They make this. Some people be pissed because it'll be online only, right? But it'll still basically give you everything you want from the Star Fox game. You still get your campaign, you still get to go through all the planets, you still get the multiplayer, it'll all be there. But it'll be online only. And you can buy it for maybe $30 or maybe $60, or you get it for free. Actually, no, that would be the thing behind it. It wouldn't be like a full on game. It'd be like, you know, like a $30, $40 game, but they make it free if you have an expansion pack, or you spend $30 or something to get it without expansion pack. Like, it would actually be just basically a game made for expansion pack users.
I would almost prefer that, and keep it in the ship rather than getting out, because I think that's one issue they're definitely having right now with Star Fox. Is they don't know what to do with the franchise.
Yeah, you simplify it.
Keep it in the ship. The whole getting out of the ship.
Keep it in the R
around,
wing. Just to be clear, it's not a metaphor. Yes. It's literally stay in the R wing.
Yes, like
I do like the walkers though.
Just
not
simplify it to the point where you like all you're doing is you're in the R wing and you're fighting. Like that just leave it at that. That's, to me, that's something I absolutely loved back in the day. Like, again, when we want to go back to the 64 debate.
yeah. What does compared to Star Fox games there?
Yo, Star Fox Assault is pretty good.
But 64 though.
Yeah, but the thing is, for GameCube, you have Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault.
I'd still rather just have 64.
64 was so good.
Yeah, but to go into the idea that you were mentioning,
I like all three. Just yeah.
I mean, 64 is just up there.
I know.
But in terms of the idea you mentioned, I'm trying to like understand it, because you're saying basically you have like where you start off, you have your map. And then you go out and do these dogfights to kind of like win this, I guess, war of sorts.
Sure.
And then the other side is doing the same thing. So, from what that sounds like to me, it sounds kind of like almost like a strategy game, like a RTS or like a turn-based strategy game. Not turn-based. What is it called? Oh yeah, I guess that is turn-based strategy game.
Well, it's not really turn-based necessarily, but
yeah. So I guess it'd be closer to like the Age of Empires type of
a little bit
gameplay.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Have you played Star Fox? Have you played Star Fox 2?
Yeah.
Have you played Starlink?
Yeah.
So, but imagine that just like online.
Right. I guess my question would be, would it be a one-on-one deal, or would you have like a team of like 4 different pilots going out into these different like areas and winning?
I haven't worked out the details yet.
Because that's what I'm thinking. Because that's what comes to my mind.
Like 4 player, even doing that with like a 4-player co-op. Online, like that'd be cool.
Yeah, because one-on-one sounds like that would take forever for the game to end if you're doing all of these different battles.
Well,
and then
people would do. Yeah, the thing is, it wouldn't be
fast.
It wouldn't be just you. It'd be teams doing it, right? So
yeah.
That's how it would happen, and you know you could, and maybe it's one of those things where like, so if you, because the thing is, right, this campaign might take a few hours. Right, so like maybe depending on how it's set up, that can impact things. So like maybe you don't want to play for a few hours. Well, maybe you just do a part, and those points carry over to maybe you can continue your campaign in a different one, right? Like maybe there's like a point system based off how much progress you do. So if someone jumps in, it sort of impacts your score if you jump out of one session into another in the future, or maybe just like you leave that session, and then once the session ends, even though you weren't there for a part of it, you did some of it, and you will see those rewards after the fact.
This sounds very. I swear I've played a mode that's very similar to this somewhere.
Are you guys feeling me though? Like, are you guys understand where I'm coming from with this? Do you think it would be like?
I think
it would work.
I think it could work, because what game was it? Have you ever played the old, like, this is a little unrelated to Star Fox, but have you ever played those old Star Wars Battlefront games on like the PlayStation?
Yes.
You remember Galactic Conquest?
I don't remember the specific modes because I didn't like own it. I just played it with like my brother and friend, but like they were like, you picked like these matches and you just fought like against a whole bunch of people, and it was like an impact.
Like this sounds like Galactic Conquest in Star Wars Battlefront, because they used to have a thing where you would have like the ship starting area, and then you would pick like your path to different planets and kind of like do a battle there, and if you won, you would like move forward in that map and continue kind of going that direction, and it would be another team basically doing the same thing on the opposite side of that map. So that kind of sounds like the same thing, but just
imagine if it's like a 4v4, right? Like you're chatting with your team, and you're like, "Yo, we need you two to go to this section." Right, we'll cover here, and then the other team's like, "Oh, well, we're gonna cut through the middle and just like steam through."
Yeah,
you know, like they could do that.
Forget it. Let's turn it into a space fighting MOBA.
No. You had me until I heard MOBA. It took me a moment. Like, no. What are you gonna do? Just fly around with an R-wing and just flap things? No. No. And by fly, you're not flying. You're just like
you're getting team fights. Let's go.
And it can even be more than like a 4v4, but maybe like but per map it's a 4. It can max out to a 4v4, but on a grand scale map it could be bigger than that. Like,
maybe, I can imagine a game like that having some very toxic voice chat if that were to exist.
They wouldn't do voice chat.
No, for sure they wouldn't.
That's when Nintendo would finally. That's when Nintendo would finally partner with Discord. By the way, I was looking at my Switch today because I was trying to download the Nintendo Switch Sports to see if I could play it before the podcast. Again, couldn't because I saw the last session was 3 to 3:45 a.m. Pacific time, which would be 6 to 6:45 a.m. my time, and I was not up at that time. I saw that Crunchyroll's available on the Switch now, so I guess we know it's going to become my most played software. No, I don't really. On my now, I don't really use my Switch for streaming. One, because it doesn't have streaming apps, but two, I just play games on my Switch pretty much. Although, because I'm away from home, I have been using my Switch to watch Funimation, because I've been binging Dragon Ball Z again for like the 7th time. But it's not gonna be the same situation. I promise.
We're gonna be back here 5 years from now, hearing about how Funimation and Crunchyroll are your top Switch memory.
It's not possible.
And we're like, how did you even manage this? You had like a couple years to do this, and it caught everything.
It's not possible. No, that's what I use my PlayStation for. I don't play games on my PlayStation. I just use the streaming apps. Legit.
That's my Xbox One X.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Legit.
My PS5 does right now.
Actually, all that stuff isn't being used right now because my the cable company now is like a streamed service. Disney Plus, Netflix is all through the box there, so
that makes sense.
I haven't turned on the Xbox One X in a while.
It's kind of funny. Like if I'm watching anything, I'm not turning on my PlayStation. I actually am thinking about getting an Xbox instead of a PlayStation, because the only thing that would keep me on PlayStation would be Bloodborne 2. Although, I mean,
16.
Is that exclusive? I thought it was going to come on Xbox.
I don't know. I thought it was going to be Final Fantasy 16. From what I know, it's PC and PlayStation.
It's from what I remember, it's said to be a timed exclusive. But here's the catch to that though is that they also said Final Fantasy VII Remake was also a timed exclusive, and that still hasn't hit the Xbox. So I don't know how long that timed exclusivity is supposed to
Does timed exclusive count for just PC then?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's actually coming to Switch next year, you'll see. But
I'm looking at the Final Fantasy 16 website. Square Enix, PS5. That's it.
I guess I'm getting PS5. It's so big though.
It is going to be
huge.
Oh, I hate it. There was rumors that they're going to make a new PS5 version. It's going to be like a slimmed down version, and I'm like,
they do that every gen.
Or just
they do that every gen.
Make it a box that I can put stuff on. Because if it's going to be that big, I need it
at
to
least use it for
somewhere.
something. That's what I put stuff on top of my PlayStation a lot.
Like it needs
my
to be
PS4, I should say.
I can't stack anything on top of my Switch, and it's not leaving my desk.
But it's also not that big.
Yeah, but
you could play 6 Switches where you have one PS5.
But my issue is that I can't place my Switch where a PS5 is because the PS5 doesn't have a flat surface to put it on.
Rounded.
Whereas
Why do
if
they
it
do
did,
that?
Because it looks cool.
Does it though?
The people I know that are PS fans are a big fan of it, and I absolutely hate it. I thought it was one of the ugliest. Like, I saw that thing, and I'm like, that's not in my living room. It's not going to be beside my PC. And
Yeah,
then
at
you
least with
find
the
out,
Series
how
X,
big it is,
it's a
and
box, right?
Yeah,
like it's weird looking rectangle box, but you could just say it's a router. Like it looks like a router almost. You know?
What,
So
the Series X?
yeah.
At least with the Series X, like it looks closer to what I would see under my desk anyway, like a PC.
Right.
Whereas
right.
it's like,
and it's like the shape, the color, the size. It's easier to hide.
that too, yeah.
I feel like the PS5 is like a tacky art thing.
It comes off as like we're trying really hard to look like we're from the future.
Yeah,
That's
but,
kind of like the impression I get.
but that's what we were trying to do back in the early 2000s.
Back when my basement flooded and we were looking at replacing things, and it's like, okay, well, we can take that step up to an Xbox One because the 360 isn't being sold. And I convinced my wife, it's like, if you let me spend like $100 more, I can get a 1X, which is going to be smaller, and instead of being massive and white, it's going to be a smaller black box. It's going to be easier to hide. And she was like, do it. And then insurance just paid for it anyways, but so that didn't matter. But the selling point was it's not going to stand out. Like, all of our furniture is dark, everything under my TV is black. Putting an Xbox there stands out a lot. And hey, maybe that's what PlayStation wants. They really want to stand out, but I don't want that. Like, I want it to blend in. I don't want it to, especially at the size of it. Like, where am I going to put it that is not just going to overtake everything?
True. Like,
I'm
I
gonna
have,
put it behind my
it
TV.
under your table.
you're gonna need a lot of duct tape. That's a big console.
A table's going to come down.
Use Gorilla Tape. Oh, it's just gonna collapse on all four legs. Yeah.
The table just gives up.
Oh man.
I have all of these consoles, and it's like, for me, like, I just use my Series X and Switch the most. Like, those are the two that get the most playtime. And the 5, it's like, occasionally PlayStation comes out with an exclusive. I'm like, that looks interesting. I'll give it a shot. But I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Thing is, I have my PC, so I don't really have a need for an Xbox.
Right.
I have Games Pass already. So I don't need it, but out of all of them, the systems that I find the most appealing is actually the smaller series. It was Series S.
Oh,
the
yeah.
1080. That one to me is really interesting at that price point. The fact that I don't have a 4K screen and I don't intend to get a 4K screen anytime soon, like, that to me is a really, really appealing system.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. Series S is actually a pretty sweet deal.
Series S and Games Pass, and you're set for a long time. The guy is incredible.
If you don't have a need for a 4K television, like, that's I agree with you for sure.
It's primarily why most of my time is on an Xbox, just because it's like, oh, it's so much easier to just see what's coming out on Game Pass and go like, okay, that's not coming to Game Pass. Okay, I'll get that on whatever. Or if it is, cool, I'll just download it and play it. That's it.
Or you just, a Games Pass pops up and you're like, oh, I haven't played that in 10 years and I loved it. And now suddenly you're playing it and you're like, why am I doing this? I have so many other things I should be playing right now. I have games I've paid for I have to get through.
Time is always the most precious resource. I think we should close the discussion soon. So I'm going to get to a couple more comments here. We're not going to tangent for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to I actually want to get your sort of expectations for 2022 based on the direct, because that's the topic, and we sort of touched on it, but not really.
I think we introduced it, then went on a tangent.
Yeah. The sad part is I'm about to read this question, and I can see it tangenting, but I'm not going to let it. So this is a guy you don't know, just was following up his initial question about Prime 4 multiplayer with expansion pack. This is what guy you don't know said. In truth, I don't know how reasonable it is to expect multiplayer for Prime 4, or even how they could go about designing it. It was just a thought that popped into my head. And I know that because he said it's just a crazy idea, right? But like, I like I said earlier, I don't expect multiplayer for Prime 4, But man, there's some cool things they could do if they did. There's some cool things, which is maybe why, like, instead what they should do is, you know how you have Dread, you have the 2D Metroid, you have the Prime Metroid. I think what they should do is they should have a third pillar of Metroid, which should be the Hunter series, and just kind of like how Halo has had a division in the past, they should do that too. Like, it should be kind of like that. I think that would probably be the best course of action.
Studios.
Yes, it could. Maybe that Bandai Namco project becomes that.
That would be great. I think that's a fantastic idea for this series. It allows it to do very consistent releases. It's when you're getting into 3 studios working like that, you almost want to put the game on a yearly cycle, but then that also gives them like a 3-year dev cycle.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, the thing that Nintendo wants to be on a yearly cycle, but they can probably fit in like a remaster or another spin-off, you know, in there and turn it, give them like a 4-year sort of term or something. Metroid Warriors, anyone?
That'd be interesting.
It would be. Well, I mean, if you have hunters, if you have the different hunters, like, it's not. What would be crazy about it is it would be more about shooting than slashing. That's where it'd be crazy. But man, this is interesting. Anyway,
You can see how it works.
yeah. Anyway,
To continue that tangent.
No.
Here's what I have to say.
What do you have to say? What do you have to say? Give me your
Brandon's
opinions.
back with a hot take.
You're wrong. Let me explain why.
What
Brandon,
do you mean? I'm always right.
Did you have anything to add though, Shifty?
Honestly, I'm just curious as to whether or not they'd make it a competitive multiplayer thing or a casual like co-op experience sort of thing. Because multiplayer can mean different things.
Yeah, you're right.
Very true.
Very true. Maybe. Well, I mean, if it's a dedicated game, maybe it's both.
Maybe.
Like, what if it's a combination of Federation Force and Hunters?
That'd be ideal for me.
Right? That'd be really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't be just straight up like shooting stuff. It would be like, hey, let's do teamwork. There are some environmental puzzles. Maybe you have maybe it's almost like a Monster Hunter, but Metroid style, right? Like, hey, if there's a giant alien boss, you have 4 hunters working together, progressing through a map to fight that. That'd be sick. But then they still have like an arena mode, you know? That'd be really cool, you know? Like that. I want Nintendo, make this game, please, please. So, you know, just to kind of, I'll do a few more questions right after we kind of finish up here, and then we'll move on. And yes, Taker, return to the 3-hour podcast. We have to. If I brought Dumo and Shifty here, Brandon was here. What'd you think was gonna happen? It's episode 200. This is a celebration. Not doing sparklers and fireworks and making a dumb intro. Just doing the podcast, but doing it as we always do it.
See, if we didn't have, you know, life responsibilities, we could easily double that number.
I mean, we could, right? I have to end this thing because I have to get up at 7. So, and I'm not, as it is already, I'm not going to get a full night's sleep. It's impossible.
We've discussed that in the past. How much we can, like, how long we could actually go if it was not. We needed to stop.
I would love for someday we all just have like 2 days off, right? So like we can start it on one day and then recover the next day, and just see how long we can go.
I wonder if anyone else would still be around after like the 7-hour mark or whatever.
I think people would. I think people would be down. I think I would like advertise it, right? It'd be like, hey,
you would have people leave and come back to it.
That's true,
right?
Yeah.
But it would keep it going though. You know, I don't know. This is something that would not happen anytime soon, unless you guys start like pushing it and like. If you make this podcast go viral and it hit 100,000 subscribers within the next month, then we'll schedule it. I will pay both Brandon, Dumo, and Shifty to get days off just to do the 12-hour podcast if I hit 100,000 subscribers in a month. I promise you that. Right? You can book it. You can book it. If you guys get me to 100,000 real subscribers in less than a month from now, I will pay all 3 of them so we can do a 12-hour podcast.
Give it an impossible task.
Hey.
I mean,
it's a win-win for me.
If it works, it works.
Yeah. If it doesn't work, I was just joking. If it works, told you. I'll do the 24-hour podcast when I hit 200,000 subscribers.
500.
24 hour. If we're gonna do a 24-hour podcast, there's gotta be like gameplay in between or something, like something to like.
Yeah,
Dude, if we're gonna do a 24-hour podcast, I feel like we almost need to work in shifts.
Yeah.
yes,
Andres is gonna be dead by the end of it, but
yes. I will have people come in and out, like help me. There'll be an hour where I sleep. No, but what happened is, what I would do it. I would do it
every
as
6 hours,
scheduled
someone
early.
comes in with water. Just...
Maybe what I would do though is I would schedule early in the morning, right? So, and I would have it all set up so like the moment I wake up, I wash my face, shower, and within less than an hour from waking up, I start the show, and that way it's basically my day is the podcast, like that is it, and then there we go. That's what I want to do for the 12-hour podcast. For the 24-hour podcast, I will need unhealthy things in my system. Yeah. So I don't think that's happening, but we'll see. So, Nintendo, if they do, I'm down. Nintendo's suggesting to get PewDiePie and Mr. Beast to get me to 100K just so we can do the 12-hour podcast. Yeah. When the Breath of the Wild 2 podcast happens, there will be a 7 to 8 hour podcast. Maybe it'll be divided into 3 different podcasts, but it'll happen. Yeah, it'll happen. Anyway, those tangents aside, so what has the Direct changed about your expectations for 2022? We don't have to like talk about every little thing. Just what did it change for you guys personally? Was there anything that you were like, oh, this is happening now, or oh, this is not happening now? Like, is there anything from it that kind of made you think that?
Like a general like idea, like our general
like
feelings
for
of the year,
like for example, like with Dread DLC, like for example earlier I mentioned because I saw free Dread DLC, that strengthens my belief that they're saving like a Prime remake to be like the new Metroid content for the year, and they'll announce that at E3, like something like that, right? Or like for example how Splatoon 3 didn't get a physical date, so now that makes me think that it's coming out late summer as opposed to early summer.
I don't know, honestly, because I feel like usually when I take a look at how Nintendo's doing in a certain particular year, at least when it's early in the year like it is now, the way I look at things, it's very like wait and see approach. That's typically how I handle these sort of things.
Yeah.
I already felt like it was a good year before this Direct,
right? Just
because I was getting Breath of the Wild, I was getting Bayonetta, I was getting Splatoon. We already knew those things before that point, and now I know I'm getting Xenoblade also, and that just automatically like boosts the whole thing for me. So in terms of like my general feelings of the year, it was just like, okay, now it went from positive to extremely positive, but in terms of like changing my view on like timing of things, I think the only thing that comes to mind really is whether like, well, for one, there's the idea whether or not the Nintendo Switch Online will give us like an expansion like every year, like we discussed earlier. Like we kind of see the Mario Kart thing now as a confirmation of that.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, yeah, this is a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I can think of is that because of how long the DLC lasts in Mario Kart, we have a pretty good idea that we're probably not going to get a new console until after that.
It could come out holiday 2023.
Yeah.
It could. It probably won't include a new Mario Kart though.
Right, yeah. I think it's definitely, because I think the last time we spoke about it anyways, I remember it, like us having this idea that it would come a little bit earlier than people were expecting, or maybe
Switch 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I've been thinking holiday 2023 for a while.
Right, yeah.
But that's earlier than some people were expecting. Some people were thinking maybe 2024.
Yeah. I don't remember who exactly said 2024 last time we spoke about it, but I do remember that being mentioned in some capacity. Now, after seeing the DLC, I'm leaning more towards 24.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm with you. Like, I still think holiday 2023 is an option. Like, a good, valid, relatively likely option. But I'm definitely not as confident about it now. Like, I could easily see it being a 2024 thing now for sure. Yeah.
Like, before, I was very, like, I want to say 50-50 on it as to whether or not it'd be a 23 or 24 thing. Now, I want to say I'm 75-25 on the idea of it in favor of it being a 24 release?
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because the Prime 4 comes out next year, and the 3D Mario comes out next year. Like,
See,
what comes out the new
issue
system?
with it is, at this point in time, I don't see them launching without a Mario Kart within the first 6 months.
Mm.
And you can't put a Mario Kart too close to the end of the DLC. So
what happens? Do we just get Switch Pro next year then?
Maybe.
We get a mid-gen refresh next 2023, and well, okay, I'll give you this.
Okay, let's put it this way. My view of when it's coming out at this point in time, if I had to pick, I would say early 2025. I would go that far away because you got to give time. And I think they really liked the earlier release instead of pushing it for holiday, because it allowed you to get your initial sales, the shelves to go barren. They managed to restock and get a decent amount of stock in with the money they've already gotten in from the pre-sales and all of that selling to have a good, solid holiday push. And then you have a really solid install base. It's a very, very powerful way of launching a console. So I don't think they want to go too close to anything else. And I don't think they want... If it were me, I wouldn't drop it holiday. I would drop it either early, like spring or summer. And spring is a far better time to drop it than summer.
You might be changing my mind on this subject, because I was going to say that we know for a fact, based off interviews, at least initially, because to your point, the implication here is that Nintendo saw the results and that changed their perspective on it, right? But going into the situation, they wanted Switch to come out holiday 2016. That's what they wanted to happen. But because of how things shook out, not everything, they didn't have a proper lineup ready for it. So early 2017 is what ended up being the best case scenario for them at that point. I think ideally, at least before then, Nintendo would always think holiday is the best time to release hardware. And if you look at Switch Lite and you look at Switch OLED, goodness, it keeps happening. I can't stop.
That's how you know he's onto something.
And it's when I'm talking. It's when I'm talking. It's never when I'm not talking. It's only when I'm talking that it happens. But I'm trying to make I feel like a decent point.
Make a strong point.
Yeah. So, but the Switch Lite, came out September. Switch OLED came out October. Those aren't holiday releases, but they are like closer to holiday than say March. So I would say probably Switch 2 comes out second half of the year. Maybe not November. Maybe it does still come November. But when you make your point about how if they anticipate that they're going to sell out and not even be able to meet demand anyway, right? And they have all year to build an install base and sell different games and then have a massive lineup, then I'm like, okay, well maybe like I think you raise a good point. Like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, Nintendo can come out with Switch 2 whenever and it'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. But let's put it this way. There is going to be no system that comes out that is even remotely close to in demand that doesn't sell out of their first shipment. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have a bunch of... Unless there's something very wrong with it and it really missed the mark with marketing, you're not going to see a bunch of it like a month in sitting on the shelf, because that's not how companies handle it. They produce and they put out a limited amount to gauge what the sales are actually going to be and to get money in to recoup some of the losses so they can put money in to further development down the road. Like, you have to prove itself before you do it. You can't go all in and just be like, well, we have 100 million units, let's go. Like, it's never going to happen. From the time that it gets greenlit and you're actually producing, you're going to produce enough to get that first bunch in, and then while you're producing more, you're going to be seeing how it sells, and that's going to basically determine how much you're going to order for the entirety of the rest of the year or the next year, or whatever the time frame is. You have to schedule that ahead of time, but at the same time, it is better to undershoot and sell out than it is to overshoot and not be able to sell anything. Yeah. Which is really, that's only really happens at a launch. because
And there's a psychological effect to that
launch,
too, right?
There is.
Because
But
people
then
see that
after
they can't
launch-
get it, they think, oh, this must be good, right?
Yeah. And also, if it sells like 2 to 4 million units in the first month and you can't get it, or it sold 200 units and you can't get it, there's a big difference. But so like there's incentive for companies to do this. It makes sense to me to just launch earlier in the year, get through that rough patch, which it usually happens at holiday. Well, you're going to sell it at holiday anyways because it's holiday. And if you have a hot product and you really think your product is going to hit the mark and you're marketing it really well, it's going to sell out at Christmas. In that first year, you're not going to be able to put a realistic number down of units to have for Christmas and not sell it. Unless you have no games, at which case the Switch didn't, apparently. And it did pretty damn well.
It had what it needed. The one good game that everybody wanted.
But at the same time, by the time Christmas rolled around, like, it was a lot.
Yeah.
So, I
think you got him.
No, you don't. Like,
Tangent done.
No. I think it could happen then, right? Like, I don't necessarily wholeheartedly disagree. I don't. I'm not committed to it, but
It's fine.
I'll say this. I think it does depend on what the system is, though, right? As time progresses, I'm not so sure it's going to be like a clear, clean cut. Hey, here's Switch 2. It's just like more powerful version of Switch. It has exclusive games. There you go. I think it might be a situation where it might even almost like people might be like, oh, this is a Switch Pro. Like, they might even think of it as a Switch Pro because it may seem like a mid-gen refresh almost. Because I could see a situation where they come out with the system. It has enough power to be a next generation, right? But the way it's going to function is like a mid-gen refresh because the games will be compatible. Like, if basically what I mean is, say it comes out holiday 2023, right? And for holiday 2023, Nintendo's lineup is 3D Mario and Metroid Prime 4, right? That's their 1-2 punch for holiday 2023, let's just say.
Sure.
Those games will be available for Switch. And if you buy the Switch cartridge for Metroid Prime 4, you can put that cartridge into this new Switch, and it's compatible. And it's just for both systems. There isn't like a separate cartridge for Metroid Prime 4 for new Switch or 3D Mario. Switch games run on both, and that's it.
And realistically, your downloaded games could run off of the same eShop. You just put your same.
It's the same. Runs on the same eShop. It just games just look and run better on the new system, and the library is shared. But over time, they will slowly start to release exclusives for this new system. Over time. And there will be a phase out. It'll take a few years, but there will be a phase out. And if it's like that, it could drop holiday 2023. Easy. It would basically function like a mid-gen refresh, basically like Switch OLED, just on a grander scale. Or, I mean, it could still be March 2024 too. Like, it's just kind of like, it doesn't really even matter that much. To your point, as long as they're selling out, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So.
But it needs to be compelling, it needs to be marketed, and it needs to have a game with it that people want.
That's the exciting thing, right? Like, if they come out with new hardware, there's got to be a game that we don't know about yet. There's got to be a game.
Yeah.
Probably 3D Mario. I think it's 3D Mario, because why have we not gotten Mario Odyssey 2? Why do you think we haven't got Mario Odyssey 2? This is why. Because they're saving for new hardware. That is why. There's no other good explanation for it. So... I'm committed to that idea. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Mario Kart with the DLC. To me, that confirms that Mario Kart's not coming for a while. So 3D Mario's the next big thing. And it makes sense because a year after the release of the movie, it comes out digitally, then they have the 3D Mario to take advantage of that increased level of popularity. And I bet that 3D Mario outsells Mario Odyssey.
I mean, I could see it
not
taking
immediately.
the slot that Mario Kart would have had.
At this point in time, I could see Breath of the
And
Wild.
then they
2
also
selling
announced
Breath of the
Fighters Pass
Wild.
Volume 3.
Like, I could see. Nice. I could see all of the games that came out in the first year having some sort of successor, and I could see them all outselling the previous iteration, just due to the fact that there's so many more systems.
And think about this. They want Mario Kart to still sell.
Yeah.
So they'll make Mario Kart, if they do, but if it's like how I said, Mario Kart Deluxe will continue to sell on Switch 2 or whatever we call it, and it'll be evergreen forever.
See,
And
but the
what'll happen
problem
is it'll be in 4K on the new system.
The problem with it is that whenever you buy a new Nintendo console, one of the first things that almost anyone seems to get is going to be a Mario Kart. So then, by doing that and not having a new one, you're just sort of you're removing those sales and that incentive for a lot of people to pick up the new system.
Yeah.
So
And that's where it gets tricky.
So yeah, I'm not going to say what you're proposing is wrong.
But like I
I'm saying
said,
there is
though,
going
they
to be
will
a lot of issues
eventually
with it.
bring out exclusives, little by little, but they won't be just like all at once. It won't
again,
be
then-
like clean cut.
Then how do you have the compelling sales of your system? Now, granted,
I mean, at first
go
they'll sell,
back and look at the DS.
they'll sell off of the allure of 4K at first, as long as they're outselling, right? If they're just barely meeting demand, in the beginning, it doesn't matter, right? It's all about when they need to start encouraging more sales, you know.
The other problem with that is, okay, that works great for their first party, but how do you get third party on board? And you need the install base to do it. And so,
Well, another Nintendo
your
thing to
third
do
party is just
is
going
that
to continue to sell Switch games because your Switch 2 has no install base because you haven't actually full on pushed it yet. Then you're going to run into third party problems again, major ones. It's there's a lot of logistics to this, and I bet they could make it work. It's just, is it worth the logistical problems and the chances they take? And
I guess my point is that
realistically, they're the
I
only
think
ones to know.
Nintendo wants to basically just keep the Switch going forever, like iPhone.
I could see it. I personally would rather not, because I find there gets to be confusion as to what can run what things, and that I don't like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I could see it. I mean, they're in the right space for it, for iterations and for improvements.
I mean, Microsoft gets away with Series X, Series S, Xbox One X, Xbox One S. What's the next generation? What's the new generation? What's the past
Mind you,
generation? Xbox.
Switch Lite, Switch OLED, Switch Pro. You know, now you're gonna get into Switch 2 Lite, Switch 2 OLED. Like,
I don't know.
That seems to be just what the market is doing now. Like at this point in time, I think
So,
the PS5 is the only one that hasn't done it yet, and it's still early for them. So
the PS5 still has 2 iterations.
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I forgot
They have
about
the all digital
edition. Yeah.
Yeah.
and they always do a trimmed down version, a smaller version. Like, so
for that reason, I feel like if the Switch 2 releases and their only like major selling point is that it's in 4K, but it plays the same games and the games are shared with the other Switch, I don't see it like it'll sell, but I don't see it selling as well because there's not going to be as many people who would be interested.
And maybe you're right. I don't know.
how do you build the hype to blow it up like that, so to where you're going to get 100 million units?
What game
Where's the
can they?
excitement?
What game can they release that's exclusive that'll be impactful? Like, I don't think Metroid Prime 4 will be there yet.
No.
No,
And Breath of the Wild
Prime
2 will not
won't
be
do
ready.
it.
And I don't think it'll be Mario Kart. I mean, maybe it can be Mario Kart 9, but I feel like what'll happen is, I think it has to be 3D Mario. Like, I think that's pretty much the only option.
That sounds like what makes the most sense, considering Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be pretty much, that's going to be out for a while by the time that happens. Mario Kart DLC would have just finished up, like not that long prior. And 3D Mario has been absent for a good while now.
Yeah.
Since 2017 or so. It's
Yep.
yeah, I would see that being as like the most likely scenario, especially if you're right and they do want to time it with the release of the movie.
A year
But
after.
at the same
release.
time, then where's your Donkey
Right,
Kong?
right.
Yeah.
True, Donkey Kong is dope, but I don't know
It's
how
just-
much it's gonna have the same impact.
But you see the dilemma here, right? Like if Switch 2 comes out holiday 2023, like where we're at right now, it doesn't feel like next year is gonna be slow. They have Prime 4, they have Gen 9 Pokemon probably. When are we getting Pikmin 4? Like, Splatoon 3 is gonna have DLC. There's gonna be DLC for Mario Kart. There's probably gonna be DLC for Breath of the Wild too. Like, there's
I don't
games
feel they have
continually
enough
coming.
time to wrap up what their commitments will be to the Switch, or even be remotely close. And not just commitments, but major commitments.
Whatever happened to Resident Evil Switch? Like, when's that coming? Is it coming? That was supposedly leaked. Like, it wasn't even
Is
like,
it-
like you know.
Wasn't that like a streamed version of a game? Or am I thinking something
Like
else?
cloud version, you mean?
No.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Revelations 3. But hopefully better.
I don't remember it at all right now. It's been too many things.
Oh, there was a cloud Resident Evil game. I'm talking about like a ground up exclusive new Resident Evil game for Switch. Though. That's what I'm talking about, like the Monster Hunter Monster Hunter Rise, but for Resident Evil.
I don't remember hearing about it, so I don't know.
It may not happen, so
What if that's the announcement we get when that Capcom countdown completes? Because that ends in like an hour from now.
That'd be sick. Be so
Oh.
sick. I mean, come on,
Let's
look at
buckle
the
in,
sales
keep
for
going.
Monster Hunter Rise. Look at the sales for Monster Hunter Rise. You gonna tell me that Capcom's not thinking that they could put out another exclusive on Switch and really benefit from it? Rise is killer.
We can.
Yeah, no,
It'd probably
Monster
be
Hunter,
just another timed exclusive deal,
right? It'll
Oh,
still
for
come
sure.
to PC
For sure.
Right.
Speaking, I don't even know how the PC version's selling right now.
I'm sure it's
mean-
selling well. I don't know how well, but I don't see it like bombing,
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, is there anything else you guys want to add in terms of like 2022 expectations? Do we all still expect Breath of the Wild 2 to be a November release?
I do.
Yeah.
Like people are worried that because they didn't mention
It's
it
not
at all
earlier.
that it's
I
not.
think-
It's not. It's going to happen this year. I'm pretty confident in it happening this year, and they're not going to push it to December.
I think November at the latest.
And it's not going to come before Xenoblade.
October or November. Those are our two options.
So yeah, those that's the only, because they're not going to put it. I highly, unless something goes horribly wrong, they won't drop it to December, because then it misses out on eligibility for all of the
Game Awards,
game awards,
which absolutely
shows,
helps marketing.
especially when you're winning everything.
Well,
Well, who knows?
With
this
the
is kind of packed.
well, with
Again, who knows? But you're coming.
I
off
do
the
see
game,
Breath of the Wild 2
it's the
beating
sequel to
Horizon
what?
in terms of
It's like-
yeah.
Yeah, like you're literally coming off of a game. It's the sequel to the game that literally won everything.
I think it's the winningest game of all time.
Wouldn't be surprised. But even if it either way, it's won a ridiculous amount of things. That is going to count for something, even if it shouldn't. Like it, you have that expectation. They have that expectation for themselves. So it is going to win a bunch of awards. It's just, is there something else that can beat it?
I don't really believe in the December time slot anymore. Like at first I was like, oh, Nintendo does that, but I've thought about it. Like I feel like Nintendo came out with Xenoblade 2 in December because they were rushing it out. And I also feel like Nintendo came out with Smash in December because they were like, well, it's better than not coming out this year, right? I think ideally they would have had it come out like November or October. So
I don't know. I think it's possible, but I definitely do think it's more likely to be November.
I'm not saying December is like the end of everything. It's just kind of like ideally you come out with it a little bit earlier in the year. It's a little bit more time to get sales in before the calendar year's up. And to Dumo's point, like there's more publicity, especially going to the Game Awards.
Right. I'm just not too sure. Like depending on the quality of the game, I'm not too sure they're gonna stress too much about whether or not the Game Awards is a factor for them to worry about that necessarily.
Mhm.
I can see it from an advertising perspective. I do understand that, so I think it's somewhat realistic. I just don't know if that's going to be enough for them to, put out a game slightly earlier than they think they should.
If it's not ready, it's not ready, right? I think
if something goes very wrong and it falls to December, I can see it fall to December. But a game in December does not win a single award because it is not included in that year's Game Awards, and it is forgotten. And when people look up games that happened in this year for the next year's Video Game Awards, that game does not come up in a search. So no one remembers it as being eligible for the next year. So it's no guarantee that you're going to win awards, but if you think you can and you release it in December, you have lost the extra marketing from it.
Yeah,
and that's all there is to it.
It's just if it's done in time, we're gonna choose November. We're not gonna choose December. But if push comes to shove and we're like, we need the game to be right, then you wait till December if that's what makes sense. But you also have to remember that you can do. I know people hate it, but you can fix things afterwards. It's just not a good look.
It's not a good look, but at the same time, Breath of the Wild did do patches here and there that fixed how it was running.
Yeah,
and
but
it did not hurt and it wasn't a bad look. So it depends on what's not quite there and how close is it.
It's a spectrum. Right?
It's a fine line to ride. I'm not saying this is what I want. I'm saying this is what I believe to be the reality of the situation.
There's Breath of the Wild, where most of the game is, if you compare Breath of the Wild to pretty much any other open world game before it, it's far more polished. But there are some areas that have frame drops that to the casual gamer they may not even notice, or if they do, it's not going to impact the gameplay too much. Versus Cyberpunk 2077, where there were mass refunds because the game didn't look or run anywhere as it was advertised.
Cyberpunk needs more than a little patch here and there to fix.
Cyberpunk needed
Breath of the Wild did not. Breath of the Wild, it's like Breath of the Wild they could have not touched at all and people would have been fine. And it was a good look that they were like, oh, well, the game runs pretty darn good. And it's like, well, they've patched here and there to make it a little bit better, and people were happy about that. The day one patch people were really angry about. It was literally the home screen so that you could get sent to the eShop to buy the DLC. So that wasn't a big deal. It's things like that. It's what you're going in and fixing. So if there's, again, if the
I think there was like some sort of language support patch they did too, or something.
Yeah. If the game is not ready, I would hope they don't release it a month or two early when it's not ready. Yeah. If it is ready, but there's a couple little weird bugs that aren't game breaking, like if there's a couple places like, oh, Breath of the Wild, if you happen to run through this patch of grass in the opening 2 minutes of the game, it's going to chug. Okay, release with that, who cares? You'll be past that and things will be fine. You can fix that later. If your localization isn't quite done yet, you can't release your game. You don't have an option. If you have a bug that you know of, where if you run through this patch of grass, it deletes your save file, you can't release your game. That's not okay. But for little things, they can release early and they can patch afterwards. It's not the end of the world. Even if it's not a great look, it just depends on how you present it. If you present it like, if everyone's freaking out over this patch of grass that literally breaks your game, and you fix it, people are like, well, why did that even release like that? If you run through a patch of grass and it slows you down, and they're like, we fixed the slowdown, but it's still not perfect, people are like, well, it's better.
Yeah.
So there's the anger isn't there, and the bad look isn't there, publicity wise. So it all depends on what your finished product is versus what the actual finished product should be. If it's like a few touch-ups here and there that's going to take a week of troubleshooting to make something better that isn't great, but whatever, it's good enough, then yeah, go ahead and release the game early or on time. You know, it.
Yeah. So a couple
things are gonna
things.
come up in games all the time.
Couple things. One, your cat's in the background, and I think it's great.
I'm surprised he's not in my face right
Yeah,
now.
he's just chilling. He's just chilling there in the chair. It's pretty awesome. Not chair, table, I should say, by the chair. The other thing, I just want to kind of add to the whole Breath of the Wild 2 thing. Like another thing that kind of I made a video about it, but basically, I feel like I made an argument that the lack of Zelda news at the Direct actually is good news for Breath of the Wild 2, because unlike last year, they didn't announce a Zelda game, right? Typically, Nintendo wants to have at least one major Zelda release every year. So the fact that they didn't announce a Zelda game now means that there isn't at least up to this point, hasn't been an alternative Zelda game that Nintendo could rely on to be the Zelda release for this year. So at this point, we're not getting Zelda news until E3, probably, and that's like where Breath of the Wild 2 would be discussed, right? Had they announced, say, Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD for, like, say, August, just like how they announced Skyward Sword HD for, like, I think July or August, right? Like, we might have been thinking, okay, this is what Nintendo's going to have us sort of play to hold us over until next year. But because it didn't, I think it strengthens the suggestion that, yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 is going to hold to its 2022 release date.
The slot's still open, and that means that it's still very likely.
Right.
I never doubted it. Even the Direct, it's like I was like, oh, I could see Breath of the Wild being there, and it's like, oh, Breath of the Wild wasn't there, and people are like, oh, does it fall? Nah, it'll just be shown at E3.
Yeah.
They're just
Had
saying
they announced
a massive blowout.
But let me ask you a question though. Had they announced Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD for, like, say, late summer?
Oh, I would have said it's next year.
Yeah.
Instantly.
So it's a big difference, right? But the fact there is nothing is actually not bad news. Unless you really wanted Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD.
In which case, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
Also, I also really want it, so I'm kind of with you. But I want Breath of the Wild 2 right now first.
I would take Breath of the Wild 2 over this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I pretty much had the same mentality with the the Direct not having Breath of the Wild 2. I was like, I saw the people worried about the game being delayed, and I was just thinking that just means E3. That it's still too early in the year to think that the game got delayed. It's only the second month of the year.
Now, had they announced, if they had announced Xenoblade 3 for November, then we would be like, oh, that's weird, right? Even in October, I would have been like, oh, but because it said September, there is a gap there. There's a big gap there for, like, another big epic sort of game. So, yeah.
The thing is, Nintendo likes to end their Directs on a really strong point. Going into the Direct, I was like, it's probably going to be something Splatoon, or it's going to be something Zelda.
I was thinking Xenoblade or Zelda.
Xenoblade wasn't even a thought at that point in time for me. So, like, I was going into it, and I'm like, they're going to end with a mic drop being Zelda or Splatoon. And Splatoon got shown early, and I'm like, oh, maybe Zelda.
Well,
and then they dropped Xenoblade, and I'm like, perfect.
Yeah,
let's go. I'm happy.
I just meant, like, after they showed, I meant in the middle of the Direct. Once we were in the middle of the Direct and they had already shown off Splatoon, I was like, all right, it's either Xenoblade or Zelda. That's what I meant. Because I agree with you, Splatoon could be a mic drop kind of game.
To me, I wasn't even thinking about Xenoblade at that point in time. So, that kind of was a really big surprise to me.
I pretty much knew Xenoblade 3 was going to be at the Direct the moment they showed off Fire Emblem Warriors. Because I was like, oh, that means there's not a Fire Emblem game coming this year, a real one. So they need another RPG series to come out this year. So it's definitely Xenoblade. Because I don't know if you guys have heard me. Like, I made the argument in my previous videos, like, hey, it's probably either Fire Emblem or Xenoblade. Maybe both, but probably one or the other. So once they were like Fire Emblem Warriors, it's like, yep, Xenoblade 3 is at the Direct. Here we go. So... yeah.
Actually, that trailer started up, and I yelled in my voice chat that it was Zelda just to mess with people.
Man.
And it took me a second to know what it was, so like I had no idea what it was. It showed up, blue lights came on, I'm like, that's Zelda. And I just waited, and everyone's like, no. I'm like, yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. No, that's like you would have had me. So we gotta end the discussion. My eyelids are starting to get heavy. And again, I'm getting up in not that long from now. So, gotta end soon. I will check a couple chats here real quick. Let's see here. Thomas on, well, they did DLC for Dread into single player. So like Dread DLC is a free DLC update. They do DLC for single player games. I'm just talking about paid DLC for free on the Nintendo 64 online expansion sort of pack. Like that expansion that you pay $50 to $80 a year for. That's what we're talking about. Like DLC can come to any game. Yeah, like this, that's fine. And you know, to Dumo's point, maybe we still get like free DLC for Xenoblade or Zelda. Like that could maybe happen. And when I say free DLC, I mean you still pay for it, but if you have expansion pack, you get it for free.
It's included.
Right, and there still could be free DLC updates like for Dread, but we're talking about like the extensive additional campaign content, season pass kind of DLC. So yeah, there's a lot of nuance there. I understand. Casual New Gamer, holiday is great for console sales and console launches are great for consoles. So on this restart, you want to maximize your first year sales by releasing out of holiday. That has been the general perspective for businesses, but I feel like the last few years have definitely shown that something can come out at any point and still sell well, at least if it has Nintendo on the box.
I think it would work for anyone as long as they're not jammed into a weird season.
Yeah, I still side with new hardware coming out closer to the holiday, but I don't necessarily disagree with Doom thinking that it could still be successful coming out earlier in the year. There's different circumstances, right? Like for example, I'll tell you this, I think I feel pretty good about saying this. I could be wrong, but it's gonna be hard to prove. Nintendo doesn't know when the next system's coming out yet. They have an idea. They have a spectrum, but they're paying attention to their forecasts. They're looking at how their sales trajectory is right now. They're looking at what content, how games are developing, because development's fluid. Like, so they don't want to necessarily release their system until they have the lineup they want ready, right? They also want to time it based off where their sales are at with their current hardware, right? And then also there's the R&D of the system and trying to meet demand. There's a whole lot of factors involved that are very fluid. So maybe Nintendo does have a holiday 2023 in mind, but they also may be thinking, oh, maybe I have to push this till March of 2024, right? Or maybe, you know, they think, oh, well, if things are going really well, maybe we wait till holiday 2024. Like it does, they don't know yet. I think they have a window, and they will adapt based on how things change.
Their window may have been earlier, and then when they with the console not slowing down and bigger games coming and then expecting it to still do well and still sell well, that might be why we're getting DLC for Mario Kart to push 9 back to release with a new console. So maybe. Like this could be them, that alone could signal them shuffling things around for a pushed back release date for the next gen.
And you know, I'll even give you this. I could see maybe the Mario Kart DLC finishing like mid 2023, not end of 2023, just to create more of a gap for say Mario Kart 9, say like late 2024 or something, you know?
Oh yeah.
Because
I
it would be a little weird, say if Mario Kart 9 comes out holiday 2023 and Mario Kart DLC just ended 2 months ago, you know?
Yeah, well that's kind of where I'm pushing back my date for that's why I would honestly push back as far as early 2025. Because that would give enough time in between so that people don't feel cheated after finishing the DLC.
I feel like it's got to be. I feel like it's got to be 2 years. But I mean, I'll settle for. I mean, I'll take it immediately. I don't care. But you know,
some people are gonna wait till the last pack before they buy that DLC. And if at that last pack they're already talking about a next gen console, they're gonna be like, well, why bother? I'm just gonna get the next gen.
The other interesting thing, right? If you think about it, that DLC is probably not gonna finish. I mean, maybe it doesn't finish it. Maybe I'm right, and it does finish like midway through 2023 instead of like the end of 2023. But even if that happens, like it's probably not going to finish before E3, right? That's probably not going to happen. So in other words, they can't announce Mario Kart 9 at the E3 when there's still DLC running for or Mario Kart 10 because Tour is probably 9. But you get my point. They can't announce next generation Mario Kart while the DLC is still going for Mario Kart 8. They can't do that.
Yeah.
So and
I don't think they can announce the next gen system because a next gen system they're going to have to do a new Mario Kart game because they literally didn't do a new one for this entire generation.
Even if they don't, It's just so tricky because again, like I feel like that's why I've suggested what I've suggested, because maybe what makes the most sense is just to do a seamless transition as opposed to doing a clean cut, right? So it's just kind of tricky because it depends. Like, when do you announce these things, right? Because you don't want to announce, because especially if there's still kick-ass games coming up for Switch. Like, I think Switch is still going to be relevant in 2023. You know, so it's kind of like, but the thing is though, Nintendo want it to be relevant in 2023. They don't want to have a year where there's just nothing. So we're actually kind of in uncharted territory here, because usually for a Nintendo console, that last year sucks. I think Nintendo's finding a situation where that last year is not going to suck. So now they have a new problem, but it's a good problem to have. How do you transition from a good year of whatever of Switches to still another good year, but for the other system, right? I think what has to happen is that obviously you have them coexist the same way 3DS and Switch coexisted for a couple of years.
Yep.
At least that.
See, I'm in full agreement. I just think it's going to happen later than you do.
I mean, I mentioned earlier, because of the Mario Kart DLC, I'm thinking that maybe Switch isn't out until 2024. Like, I'm not committed to that yet, right? I think the earliest we see Switch 2 is holiday 2023. That's the earliest, but it also might be ideal. So we'll see. But
and then you get into the whole 8-year lifespan that they said for the Switch, and it's like, well, how much overlap are they willing to do right now for the next gen, especially with the Switch being so good? Because you can't be releasing like crazy games on a Switch that sold over that. You can't break records and then think that your next gen console is going to outsell that with your big cross-plat game, like your cross-gen game. Like, that's just, I find that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
But it's a launch. There's going to be enough people to buy it at launch. It'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still thinking on my end 2024 is like the earliest I'm expecting it.
I don't think it's a dumb expectation at all. At all. I
would have been with you on 23 if the Mario Kart thing didn't happen.
Yeah,
now I'm thinking 24.
Right. You could be right. I'm also not sure either. So, you know.
I was leaning on 24 before, and then that happened, so now I'm pushed back to 25.
But 25 makes sense to me too.
Personally, I think 25 would be the latest they would want to do it. Like,
people were making the argument
24.
Sure.
I can see 24. I just personally, I feel like 25 would be a little bit more.
It's perspective really matters here, right? Because at one point people were making arguments that because the Switch is so weak that Nintendo needs to come out with stronger software so third parties can like use it. But like, first off, how much do those third parties really matter, right? They don't. Like, they matter, but they're not Nintendo's bread and butter. Nintendo's bread and butter is their steady stream of first-party content because they're focusing on one platform, indie games, and older third-party games. Right? It's not like, hey, we're going to get the most modern... We're not getting Final Fantasy 16 on Switch, at least not this year. Right? Like, probably never. But you get my point. Like, that's what it is. So having new hardware to run modern games isn't really needed. It isn't. So, you know, it's kind of like, I feel like it's become a bit of a fallacy, right? Because the Switch is, maybe at first it was I don't think it was a stupid perspective to be correct, because I've thought about that too. But I think what it is that Switch has created an ecosystem where that's not necessary. Nintendo doesn't need that. At one point they thought they needed it. They don't need it.
The thing is, they do need it. But the thing is, they get that by having a large enough install base. And it's their first party that drives the install base. They have that install base now.
So what I'm referring to is multiplats.
Day and date
multiplats.
But yes, but it's not so much that you need the multiplats, it's that you need the third party, because it's a lot of money tied up in third party. So multiplats, you don't actually need multiplats, because every system sells based on their first party.
Right.
So
the point is, Nintendo doesn't need to have. They don't need the AAA. The Nintendo doesn't need the AAA 4K developed in mind third-party games, right? They can do well with the third-party exclusive games. They can do well with the games that can be ported down after some time. They can do well with the older games, the indie games, and their first-party games. That's more than enough.
All of those,
we don't have enough time.
Third parties will tell you it is absolutely impossible. until all of a sudden there's 100 million units looking them in the face, and they're like, "Ooh, maybe."
And
now it's worth the effort.
But now also remember those big PS5 games right now are actually PS4 games that they've just put better textures on and upscaled. So if they could run those PS4 games if they could cut those down onto the Switch, then they can still do it because nothing's changed except now they have to push higher visuals. Well, when you drop that down to 720p and you drop down your textures and everything else, all of a sudden when those games start working again on the Switch, because, well, they can do it, all of a sudden, oh, it's worth the money.
Yeah. All right.
And then that can happen.
Sorry, Dumo. Is it, you want to finish? Is it you're done with your point?
That's it. I'm
That's
good.
it.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No more tangents. No more tangents.
We're gonna hit 4 hours. Although. No, it's
but
fine.
Wait, there's more.
What I wanted to add, because I said a couple different perspectives on this situation, is that if you look at the Switch as a home console, you're like, yeah, it's dated. But if you look at it as a handheld, compared to the long history of Nintendo handhelds, the Switch is a beast of all beasts, right? Like, it's the largest jump we've ever seen from one system to another from Nintendo. If you look at it as a 3DS successor, which it is, right? So that's something else to consider. But the overall point here, and Dumo, we basically agree, right? Is basically because of this situation, Nintendo, they can go at their own pace, right? Like, it's not a situation where the Switch is so outdated that they need to be in a rush to iterate upon it. They're still selling, and there's still games are coming. So there's not really a need to come out with increased, more powerful hardware so soon. Basically, they want to continue to create sales. So maybe even we see this mid-gen refresh or the Switch Pro holiday 2023. Heck, you know what? I'll even throw this out. And I know people are not going to like it. And I know it's somewhat hypocritical. But I wouldn't be entirely shocked. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I think there's a chance. I'm not banking on it, just to be clear. It wouldn't entirely shock me if we see a Switch revision this year at the end, even though it would be a year removed from Switch OLED, which would go against Nintendo's pattern. But they could do that, come out with Switch 4K, right? And then in 2025, then they come out with next gen Switch. Like, that's not impossible. But I don't know. Nintendo's weird. This is not normal. This is not a situation where we can look at history and be like, "Yep, this is what they're gonna do." It's uncharted territory.
It's a unique situation.
Yes, absolutely. But any final thoughts or final messages you guys want to put out before I fall asleep? I'm literally seeing my bags develop more. Like, if you go to the beginning of the podcast, I feel like I will look more wide-eyed than I do now.
I think we did that losing a person.
Yeah,
we can continue going, but
I mean, it is possible. It's feasible.
I need to go to sleep.
We are capable.
I need to go to sleep. This is why.
But...
This is the real reason why I've started the podcast. New time is 8 because it would have been 1 o'clock.
Because we don't shut up.
Right.
Yeah, we don't shut up.
I don't shut up either, though. This is why we're great. But you know.
Yeah, but you get me and Dumo on at the same time, and no one's shutting up ever.
We're done.
And Brandon, Brandon and I have we've talked after the podcast. We spent a half hour, both of us trying to cut off a tangent, and we couldn't find a way out of it until Andres stepped in and went like, "Nope, we're moving on."
Well, you need somebody to do it, and he's the host, so you know what? It works out.
I do a terrible job of cutting off. I just like, oh well, we gotta finish the thought. It's gotta be finished. It's gotta be finished.
Well, how to end this? Congrats on 200 episodes and 4 hours of a podcast.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Congrats and thank you for involving me in this. It's been a lot of fun.
I always enjoy it.
And I love coming on this and just having a good chat with you guys.
Yeah, same here.
Yep. Also, screw you, Brandon. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't get a link in his description.
Guys, make sure to check out Brandon's Twitter. It is linked in the description below. And make sure to check out Dumo's channel. It's linked in the description below as well as Shifty's channel. It's all linked in the description below. Please check them out. Please check out their content. Please leave likes and comments and enjoy what they watch because they're all really great. But with that, I bid you all a good night. Sleep well. Enjoy the show. I hope you enjoyed the show whenever you watch this. And we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.
See you guys.